kind of thing. It's like it's a fun way to get engaged with it and to.
You're 6 minutes away from a live episode of Free Talk Live. Listen live at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. At least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. A massive search and rescue operation is now taking place with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland also affected. Reporter Julia Saudelli is in the worst affected region of Western Germany.
There's a lot of destruction here. We've seen people who live here who have had to leave their houses because there's no electricity, there is no water, and most of the ground floors of the homes have been flooded.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the tragedy demonstrates again that urgent action is needed to combat climate change. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to weed out misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. For the second successive day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has accused Facebook of lacking sufficiently robust enforcement strategies.
The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet, which has been disproven time and time again. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health.
It's reported in Washington that the Biden administration has had a series of tense conversations with Facebook executives over the last few weeks. Britain has recorded an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases just ahead of Monday's lifting of remaining pandemic restrictions. Nearly 52,000 new infections were recorded on Thursday and another 49 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 scientists have signed a statement accusing the British government of irresponsibility and immorality in planning to lift restrictions on Monday. Dr. Deepti Gudasani is senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London.
I think a lot of us are gravely concerned about the UK strategy. We had an emergency summit today where this strategy was described by Dr. Hasseltine, a leading virologist in the US, as murderous by the advisor to the Italian government, as diabolical, and by many on the panel as unethical.
The United States has issued an advisory warning American businesses about the risks of operating in Hong Kong. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Jagruti Dave reports.
In the advisory, the State Department, the Treasury, the Commerce Department and the Department of Homeland Security cautioned US firms on the clear operational, financial, legal and reputational risks of doing business in Hong Kong. The risks highlighted include those associated with electronic surveillance without warrants and having to surrender data to authorities. Ahead of the advisory's release, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the United States should stop interfering in Hong Kong's affairs.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the death in hospital yesterday of Dutch journalist Peter de Vries. He was shot in the head 9 days ago after walking out of a television station where he had just given an interview. 2 suspects are in custody being questioned about the shooting. Mr. de Vries was 64. He had devoted his career to investigating the Dutch underworld and its criminal tentacles.
The country is sort of in a bit of a state of national mourning. Thousands of people have sort of turned up in Amsterdam to lay flowers where he was shot. They held a sort of impromptu memorial on the Dam Square in Amsterdam.
Molly Quell is a contributing editor for DutchNews.nl.
He was the Netherlands' most famous journalist, and he was famous sort of worldwide as well. He vaulted to fame, I think, covering 1983 kidnapping of Freddie Heineken, the Heineken heir. And he was also involved in the death of this American teenager in Aruba, I think in 2005. And that's won him an international Emmy. I mean, the sort of condolences have kind of poured in, I think, both across Europe and across the world. He was, quite well known.
2 years ago, police warned Peter de Vries that his name appeared on a gangland hit list. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said Mr. de Vries was afraid of nothing and of no one. We owe it, he said, to ensure that justice takes its course. The main news again, at least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to combat misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. And more than 1,000 global scientists are accusing the British government of immorality in planning to lift COVID-19 restrictions on Monday. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Studies show that more and more teenagers are leaving Facebook, but where are they going instead? Apparently to the hottest new social media site in years, the comment section of this YouTube video of a deer running in slow motion. Already, its comment section is seeing over 30 million active users. Facebook isn't giving up so easily, incorporating images and videos of deer, elk, reindeer, and even moose into their layout. But teens say that misses the point entirely. In fact, the site's one unwritten rule: don't post anything about the video itself. Teens say that's not cool. But with more and more people swapping over to the comments section of the slow motion deer video by the day, some trend watchers warn it may begin going the way of Facebook.
I was obsessed with it for a while, but now it's just boring. I'm probably going to switch over to Happy Fast Kitchen.
While we don't know for sure, we believe Happy Fast Kitchen might refer to the Yelp page for a Chinese food restaurant in Cleveland, the new social media site where musician Skrillex recently dropped his latest album.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Captain's Log 7/16/2021. Broadcasting live from the Starship Free Talk Live. Am I a nerd?
Yes.
I like this. I like this new intro of yours. You should do that every show.
It just popped into my head today. I've only been doing this show for, I don't know, a couple of years or something. And
well,
so,
Chris, would that make you the first officer and I can be like a passenger on the ship?
Sure, why not? You're wearing the red shirt, so you go on the away mission.
Oh, no, I don't want to go on the away mission. I'll be killed.
It's too late. You're wearing the red shirt.
It's all over for the red shirt.
Yep. Eventually, you perish in some. But, you do it for the crew, right?
You know, the thing that struck me about Star Trek, and by the way, we'll get to intros on your calls in just a bit, and let's introduce ourselves first.
So this is Free Talk Live. The telephone number, if you want to join us, is 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls in just a moment. I am your host tonight, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
And we'll get to who TJ the Spy is also. But
he's the guy who ratted us out.
You had something you were going to say. Do you remember what it was?
No. It's gone out in one ear and out the other, my good sir.
All right. Well, before we get to talking about ourselves and what's going on, let's go to, we have Stephen calling from the UK. Stephen, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, yo, what's poppin'? You look like something from To Catch a Predator, bro.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Can you say that again?
I said, you look like someone in the episode of To Catch a Predator.
Oh,
wow.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I go for that, dashing criminal look. I can't see you, so I can't comment on your appearance. What's on your mind tonight, Stephen?
I just want to know why your man's in the back looks like the KFC Colonel on meth. The man's with that long-ass beard.
Well, I'm the only bearded one here. Wait,
well, we have Keith.
Wait. Do you look like KFC? No? Huh? I don't know why. It's probably just coincidence. Anything else on your mind, Stephen?
I hear that, bro. Do you believe this COVID stuff is a conspiracy, or do you believe it's real?
Well, it depends on what you mean by this COVID stuff.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Do I believe that there is some sort of a disease, something that resembles the flu as, the common folk know it, that's going around? Yes. Why do I believe that? I had it. Now, as far as the rest of it is concerned, I think it's all a bunch of hogwash. It's a bunch of politicians and authoritarians trying to take control and keep control, more for themselves and less for you. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's exploitation is what it is. It's exploitation of something that's real and made into something it's not, effectively, and we're all being harmed as a result.
DJ?
You know, the thing, I don't have too much to say about COVID. I believe it's real. Coronavirus is a disease. In fact, Mom would not see me. I went home this past week and Mom wouldn't see me unless I got my vaccine.
Still?
So I had to get my vaccine. I had to take one and get my shot, my Fauci ouchie.
To see Mom, huh?
To see Mom, yep.
Steve, what about you? Have you been vaccinated? What do you think of all the COVID stuff? Steven?
Oh, sorry. I'm trolling. I didn't realize my name was Steven. Yeah. I haven't had my vaccine yet.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, Steven. Have a good night.
Oh, trolls.
He didn't realize his name was Steven.
Yeah.
Well, that's the name you gave us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Didn't realize my name was Steven. All right. Thanks for the call, Steven. All right. So, TJ the Spy, I know who you are.
You know who I am, but maybe some of the listeners don't.
And some of the listeners who listen regularly will know that you've called in.
I'm a regular caller.
Somewhat regularly. You're not a chronic caller, as we like to say, but you call in frequently enough that regular listeners should at least have heard your name before.
And I was a host here on the LRN
for some time.
For several months.
He co-hosted for I feel like it was a long while.
It was maybe a year or something. Back in 2015, 2016, about the FBI raid.
I remember listening to you all the time on Free Talk Live. During the second FBI raid there, you guys were heavily affected by.
Wait, so it's March 16th, number 3?
There were 3 FBI investigations in Keene surrounding.
Right, but there are only 2 breaches of the property, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So, TJ the Spy, for the listeners who don't know, who are you?
Well, I was a spy for the United States government at the National Security Agency back in September 30th, 2002 to July 26, 2006.
So NSA?
So the NSA at Fort Meade, Maryland, yep.
So when you got your paycheck,
yes,
what did it say? Who was it from? What bank or institution?
Oh, it was direct deposited from, it would say U.S. federal government.
Okay.
So that's what it said on my paycheck, U.S. federal government.
I just always like to point out to people that, there's contradictions within government itself. And I always like to look at where the money is, right? So, if you're going to court for something, you want to look at the judge, the prosecutor, and probably the police officer who, arrested you or gave you the ticket or whatever, and go, who's paying them? Oh, they're all getting paid by the same place. Wow, weird.
Yeah.
In any other instance, that would be a conflict of interest, but so at any rate, go ahead.
Well, that's what I did, for 3 years, 9 months until they tossed my hiney out because I was a little mentally ill. And one of my friends said, "You can go far here. You just got to keep your mouth shut and not see stuff."
Not see stuff.
Not see stuff. You got to learn to not see stuff. That's what he told me. And I just couldn't do that. It was one of those things that if I saw waste or fraud or abuse of something, I would speak up and say, "This is wrong. According to subsection 4 of the Internal Revenue, we cannot do this." And
is that what constitutes mental illness these days?
Well, it's what they say if they want to get rid of you. I mean, the thing is, when you work for the NSA or the CIA or the FBI or the NRO or the NGA or the MCIA or the AIA or the have I left anybody out?
How many agencies
there
are there?
Are 15 different intelligence agencies. There's the NSA, the National Security Agency.
And do any of those include the Postal Inspection?
Not, but it does include the Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Treasury.
Okay.
So they all have intelligence bureaus.
I didn't even realize that the number of federal agencies could have doubled based on what showed up here. I thought they all showed up.
Yeah, there are 15 intelligence agencies. There are the 5 military service intelligence agencies. So like the Air Force Intelligence Agency, ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, MCI.
Wait. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines,
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard, thank you.
Yes. And you have the FBI, which does counterintelligence. So they're an intelligence agency, and they're also the only law enforcement agency.
I agree. The FBI is definitely counter to intelligence.
Yes.
Yeah, you can say that again.
What kind of spy work
I was a cryptographic mathematician. So, I mean, people think spy means knives and guns and karate and James Bond. But real spy work is nothing like that.
So you were sitting at a desk?
Sitting at a desk, code breaking. We'd say, okay, here's you pick a standing military code, and can you break it? Can you figure out a way of what it says? And
you were a member of the cubicle people.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had access to all the supercomputing power at the NSA. So if I wanted to do a job on a supercomputer, I could submit a request, and it would go and do its thing. That's what I miss about working at the NSA. Man, the budget. Dear God, the intelligence community, they waste this. Back then, 2002 was like $40 billion. I'm sure it's a lot bigger now.
Yeah.
But, $40 billion, to give you a little bit of context, there are 300 million Americans in the United States. So 100, that's about $100 per person, a little about 130 and some change.
Yeah, more per taxpayer probably,
Per
right?
taxpayer per year. So every year, about $130 of your money goes to pay the CIA, the Air Force Intelligence Agency. All these intelligence agencies cost money. So I forget what the exact number was, and I'm sure it's classified, so it's probably good. My memory is fuzzy after all these years. But when I got, I got fired after 3 years, 9 months, as I said, because I had my clearance revoked. And so I needed another job. So I went and got another job and got married, got divorced, and then went back to graduate school, got my degree, my master's degree, and then finally found my way up here to Keene after my first divorce. I was looking for something to do, and I'm glad I came up here because I met my current husband, James, who is James Robin Hood Cleveland, and we will talk more about that when we come back.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, how you decided to come to Keene, and we can get to that as well. So, and we'll get to your calls. We have, looks like some folks calling as well. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number if you would like to join us here on Free Talk Live. More is coming up.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering FreePrivateCities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at FreePrivateCities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. FreePrivateCities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
He bought a radiation monitor on eBay for $10.
You got to be kidding me.
A Geiger counter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, let's put some batteries in it and get it fired up. So we fired it up. We started walking
You guys
around.
know how to spend an evening.
Yeah,
Get a
right?
couple of beers, hang out with a Geiger counter.
We were making readings of 10 Roentgens outside the house.
What's that mean? Is that bad?
Yeah, it is.
Is that dangerous?
Yeah, it is.
Really?
Right.
Now, where's the life-threatening one?
100 Roentgens. I'm really concerned now because I've seen...
But you weren't concerned before you got the radiation meter out.
Right.
Now you're definitely going to get cancer, Harry. What's the detector going to do for you, though? Really? I mean,
It'll
if you're
tell
going to
you.
die, you're going to die, right?
The guy that just called in about radiation, first of all, you got a Geiger counter off the internet.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back to Free Talk Live. It is the Friday night edition. The telephone number here in the studio is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. If you would like to join us, we've got some calls holding. We'll get to you momentarily. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the captain, and joining me,
Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
And we've been talking about all sorts of fun stuff. And TJ, we'll pick up on where we left off. But first, let's go to Joe from Pennsylvania. Joe, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Pretty good, Joe. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so your friend here is from the NSA. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Well, it was September 30th, 2002 until July 26, 2006. And I remember those dates because they're very painful in my memory.
So about 4 years or so?
3 years, 9 months.
Okay, very good. You had some questions?
Just enough to long be vested with the thrift savings plan. So as soon as I was vested, I said, I got my 3 years in, the matching money, I get that, keep that. And for those of you who don't know, the thrift savings plan is like the 401k, the government employee 401k program.
It's probably way better than everybody
else's. Yeah, they have a first matching on the first 5%. So if you put in 5%, you get to keep 5%. And they immediately double your money. So
Joe, go ahead. You had some questions?
Well, first of all, so I also heard you make a passing comment about your husband. So you're gay?
Yeah. Been married once, got divorced. He left me. That was a $250,000 oopsie. It's one of those things that happens. I wish I could say I took it well, but yeah, I am.
I bet you did take it well. Since you're gay and in the NSA, how many underage boys did you smuggle into the country?
None.
Now, your voice cracked there. Now, I'm no cryptic mathematician like you, but that tells me that you're a liar.
Oh, you think I'm lying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what type of mathematics did you do for the NSA?
I was an elliptic curve mathematician. I specialize in elliptic curves.
Yeah, elliptic curves. Now, go ahead and tell me what the fuck would that have to do with the government?
We got to dump you. Sorry, bud. Dump.
Bye-bye. We are a radio show. We're not an internet-only show, and most folks are already aware of this. So if you do manage to get on and cuss, we do have the infamous radio delay, and so if you do cuss, we will dump you, and we will play something in place of your cuss word that the FCC disapproves of. I personally have no problem with people cussing. In fact,
me neither. If people want to come in and just rant,
but we are doing a radio show, and thus I must say no cussing on the radio show. We're actually broadcast over terrestrial radio somewhere around almost 200 radio stations. So, in order for us to continue to do that, no cussing on the show, please, and thank you to any and all callers and future callers. Moving right along, let's just go to Terry in Texas. Terry, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Doing well.
What's on your mind, Terry?
Yeah, I just wanted to get a bit of promotion. I got a new company. We make vests. You know, if anybody needs a vest, you know, you can get it from me. My name's Terry, surname Wrist. Can you guys give me a shout out?
Terry Wrist?
Yeah, for your vest.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny. I got to give you props to that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Got him.
Hey,
Got him.
Thanks for the call, Terry.
I'm tempted to buy one of his terror vests.
A it took me a while to get it. I'm like a vest, like a ballistic vest for protection if you get shot. And then I'm like, oh dang.
Well, and in my mind,
Darn.
I'm like, are you talking about like one of the leather biker vests? Are you talking about a fishing vest? Are you talking about a Kevlar vest? Like, so yeah, he definitely got us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, TJ, you were talking before we had the break there about your experiences at the NSA.
Yeah, and basically I left and did a whole bunch of other stuff. Got married, as I said, and had
I'm curious. Like, did you arrive in Keene before knowing about the activism that was going on here?
No, I actually came to Keene because my best friend, who I met in graduate school, he wanted to come up here for the Free State Project, and he told me, he said, "Dude, you're crazy like everybody else up here. You believe in freedom.
That's so
you
true.
believe the government should be limited. You rant about how the laws are unfair and how they punish the poor
I
people."
disagree with your friend. I think you're sane in believing those things.
Yeah.
Because those things are factually accurate and true.
Yeah, and so when I
fair
came
point.
up here to Keene and I found a lot of people who believe the same things I did, like, oh yeah, the government does make mistakes. The government does come out and ruin people's lives who are totally innocent sometimes.
Would you say that you are, a libertarian, an anarchist?
I'd probably say I'm an anarcho-capitalist.
voluntarist,
Voluntarist describes me very well. I believe voluntary interactions are what really work in society.
I mean, how can you be against voluntary interactions? Like,
Well,
it's hard to understand, like, what goes through people's heads.
When I talk to folks who are not of the ilks of the names that we've mentioned here, libertarian, anarchist, voluntarist, that type of thing. When I talk to them and I get around to asking them that exact question, like, are you against voluntary interaction no matter, what? And never has anybody gone, well, no, I love voluntary interaction.
Yeah,
of
because
course,
if you're not-
you should have my consent before you
if
do
you're
anything.
if you're not a fan of voluntary interactions, you're pro-violence.
Right.
And why would anybody be pro-violence?
So it's difficult for folks to say, I'm totally against voluntary interaction, because, I mean, obviously that puts them in a bad spot.
Well, when I think voluntary interactions that are illegal, so like the typical one you have is drug dealer and buyer. So when I go and purchase marijuana from my local marijuana dispensary in Colorado, where it's legal under state law, I'm still violating federal law because they claim the right to say this is a DEA Schedule I plant. Nobody is allowed to grow it for any reason because we don't approve of it. And that is, one thing I love about Keene is when I saw all these people coming up and standing up to the government and doing things like, the drinking beer in the middle of the town hall. So every time the legislator says raise taxes, you take a sip.
That's so
And
great.
they weren't bothering anybody. They weren't harassing anybody, but the government couldn't have that. They couldn't,
But the reaction was priceless.
priceless. The overreaction, I should say,
yeah.
from these petty government bureaucrats. It's so wonderful just to see get into their hackles and caws and make them irritated, because you can see how petty they are sometimes.
So I know, because I lived in Seattle for a couple of decades, and they also have legalized recreational marijuana. And so the last couple of years that I was there was a place down the street from my apartment where you could go and buy the marijuana, and it was fun, man. I mean, they made it fun. They did a thing on I think it was Wednesdays. If you showed up early, 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, whatever it is, they would have this $10 grab bag. You give them $10 and just whatever was about to, quote, expire, unquote, because they had dates to sell by on some of their products. They would just put it in a bag and you just reach your hand in, and whatever the one thing you got, that's what you got for your $10.
Yeah.
And it was usually a pretty good value. So I really enjoyed that. But since you're a mathematician, I want to ask you something about Bitcoin, how it relates to the business of marijuana, and we can do that in just a little bit. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number if you would like to join us here on Free Talk Live, special edition with TJ the Spy in the studio. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. At least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. A massive search and rescue operation is now taking place with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland also affected. Reporter Julia Saudelli is in the worst affected region of Western Germany.
There's a lot of destruction here. We've seen people who live here who have had to leave their houses because there's no electricity, there is no water, and most of the ground floors of the homes have been flooded.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the tragedy demonstrates again that urgent action is needed to combat climate change. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to weed out misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. For the second successive day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has accused Facebook of lacking sufficiently robust enforcement strategies.
The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet, which has been disproven time and time again. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health.
It's reported in Washington that the Biden administration has had a series of tense conversations with Facebook executives over the last few weeks. Britain has recorded an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases just ahead of Monday's lifting of remaining pandemic restrictions. Nearly 52,000 new infections were recorded on Thursday and another 49 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 scientists have signed a statement accusing the British government of irresponsibility and immorality in planning to lift restrictions on Monday. Dr. Deepti Gudasani is senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London.
I think a lot of us are gravely concerned about the UK strategy. We had an emergency summit today where this strategy was described by Dr. Hasseltine, a leading virologist in the US, as murderous by the advisor to the Italian government, as diabolical, and by many on the panel as unethical.
The United States has issued an advisory warning American businesses about the risks of operating in Hong Kong. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Jagruti Dave reports.
In the advisory, the State Department, the Treasury, the Commerce Department and the Department of Homeland Security cautioned US firms on the clear operational, financial, legal and reputational risks of doing business in Hong Kong. The risks highlighted include those associated with electronic surveillance without warrants and having to surrender data to authorities. Ahead of the advisory's release, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the United States should stop interfering in Hong Kong's affairs.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on and listen to Free Talk Live. Yeah, the telephone number you need is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. If you want to join us on the air tonight here at Free Talk Live. I am your host tonight, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
TJ, thanks for being here today and guesting.
Oh, my pleasure, dude. I was willing to come in. I wanted to actually promote a new project thanks to the Crypto 6 doing what they do. For those who don't know, the Crypto Six are a group of 6 people up here in New Hampshire who were arrested on March 16th of this year for basically selling Bitcoin. And one of the things that I thought about doing to help promote awareness of this case, there's a new character out there named Mr. Bitcoin.
What? A new character?
A new character.
Named Mr. Bitcoin.
Mr. Bitcoin.
Oh, boy.
Basically, he is bringing Bitcoin, and he will be in front of the U.S. courthouse and the U.S. Attorney's Office and in various places around Boston and Keene over the next week to help promote the awareness of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency, help people get wallets installed, to help them raise awareness of what it is.
Bitcoin activism?
Bitcoin activism,
Nice.
yes. Mr. Bitcoin.
I like this.
Is there a way that our listeners can, follow or track or otherwise know where Mr. Bitcoin might be?
You know what? It's one of those things you'll just have to come down to Keene, New Hampshire sometime, and you'll definitely know Mr. Bitcoin when you see him. There's only one Mr. Bitcoin, and everybody knows who he is when he's on the Central Town Square.
We could talk more about Mr. Bitcoin. I just want to let folks know that it is hard to believe that Bitcoin has only existed for a decade, like 11 years, I guess now technically. That decade has seen some remarkable developments for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency already. Bitcoin has proven to be an invaluable tool that is changing the world. Chances are you've already heard about Bitcoin, and maybe you've decided that it's finally time to learn about it. Well, Bitcoin.com has everything you need for that, including some very short videos that will only take a few minutes of your time to teach you the basics so that you can get involved with this still groundbreaking technology. It's been around for going on 11 years, but it's still in its infancy, believe it or not. It's still early times for the Bitcoin. So even if you already know about Bitcoin, there's still something for you at Bitcoin.com. You could stay up to date on all the news that is relevant to you at news.bitcoin.com. Something for everyone, from the novice to the expert. Again, Bitcoin.com. It's a very sleek, easy-to-use, modern website. Check it out, Bitcoin.com. So prior to the break, I had mentioned something about Bitcoin and the marijuana industry. I wanted to ask you because you...
I've been in both the Bitcoin industry and the marijuana industry.
Oh, I didn't know that. Even better. I knew that you are currently in the Colorado area, or at least that's where you make your home these days. And so I lived in Seattle for a couple of decades, and so they both share similar laws regarding recreational marijuana.
Yes, recreational marijuana. And that's one of the things that I did. I was a bud tender and a cultivator for this big corporate conglomerate out there in Denver, Colorado.
So my question is, I see a very useful space for cryptocurrency between the 3 layers of the marijuana, the recreational marijuana industry. That is the growers, the distributors, and then the retailers. Now, this could also apply to medical marijuana as well. The problem in Washington state, there's several problems, but the biggest problem was that these industries cannot get banked.
Yes.
Because it's still federally illegal. While it's legal in the state, it's federally, and so like all your big banks, your Bank of America, your Chase Bank, and all this kind of stuff, if you're like, hey, I'm a marijuana retailer and I need a bank account, they're like, sorry, you can't have one. And so I see this space that exists for the 3 layers of the marijuana industry to trade in cryptocurrency for their needs in between themselves to alleviate some of that pain of not being able to bank traditionally.
Yes, that is one of the things. There are so many problems in the marijuana industry as I see it. One is it's heavily taxed and heavily regulated.
Yeah.
So it is true. I'd rather have legal weed than illegal weed. But the legal weed in Colorado, they tack on a 26% sales tax. They tack on a 39% federal income tax because of IRS Regulation 280 ECHO. So IRS Regulation 280E, if you don't know what that is, it says if you're a marijuana grower, you are not allowed to take any deductions for labor, for rent, for expenses. All of that has to come off the top. So if you have $10 million in gross income, that's treated as $10 million of profit, taxed at 39%.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you actually do the math, 80% of the money, 90% of the money goes to paying taxes and regulatory costs. There's very little left over to pay the bud tenders and the farmers and the salespeople.
The same exists in Washington state, similar anyway, where they taxed each leg, that is the growers, the distributors, and the retailers. They taxed them each somewhere around 30%. It's probably 28%.
You know,
something like that.
I may not be a smoker, but I knew I preferred New Hampshire weed for a reason.
Yeah. So it seems like a natural marriage to me. Here's an entire industry, two different states. Many states now have legalized recreational marijuana, and so I see it as a natural marriage. What's preventing, do you think, cryptocurrency and the marijuana businesses from getting together and interacting with this?
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Like with crypto, we have a chicken or an egg problem that people don't want to accept crypto unless they're like, for example, if I'm a crypto business, a pot business, and you say to me, oh, we have this pot cryptocurrency, why should I accept it? And how many of my customers are going to pay with it?
Well, you don't even have to accept like a specific, like the cryptocurrencies that exist could easily be adopted.
Yeah.
By, at least at the retail level.
Well,
and then also within the businesses themselves, right? Because the retailer needs to buy from the distributor needs to buy from the grower. They could all be interacting with each other, right, in cryptocurrency, not even offering it as a payment method to the retail people, right?
Yeah.
The guy who just wants to buy a pack of joints or, some
they could
gummies
be, or they
something.
could be doing like, I know they've, like with Ethereum, you can do all kinds of smart contracts. And
right.
All kinds of.
When Bob pays X bill this month, then, release shipment X to Bob's pot business or whatever it is, right? It'd be really easy to automate a whole bunch of business processes between the three legs of the businesses using something like smart contracts.
Yeah. And, Bitcoin, the thing with Bitcoin that we've noticed, and Bitcoin has been around for 10 years and it's proven its worth. The problem is the $8 transaction fee. Every time you want to buy or send Bitcoin, it's $8, and that only makes sense to send large amounts of money. So when you want to make cryptocurrency available for like a $5 or $10 joint purchase, you have to be able to make that transaction happen for 10 cents, 5 cents, a penny.
Yeah.
And
there are other cryptocurrencies that can do that.
I'm just saying that's one of the reasons I haven't seen it adopted. I've been trying out there in Colorado.
Yeah.
I would say, oh, have anybody ever thought of accepting Bitcoin?
Right.
And the boss said, yeah, we've thought about it, but the thing is, who would pay for it? Who would pay with it? If it makes no sense to start accepting it and put in all this time and effort if nobody's actually going to use it.
Right.
See, and this is why it's so great to have be in New Hampshire here, because there's so many other places also accepting it. And there is this chicken and egg problem. But, at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, well, it's not like you're going to switch over to Bitcoin completely or cryptocurrencies completely anyway. And you probably wouldn't necessarily want to do that anyway, but that's actually not a bad thing, right? Like, especially during a transition stage, because, it's not 100% stable, but at the same time, it has a tendency to go up in value. So from a business prospect, and as a business owner myself, it actually makes a lot of sense to take crypto.
Yeah. I know you accept crypto at the Mighty Moose Mart, don't you, Chris?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you worried about getting raided by the FBI for doing that?
It's already happened. Don't think I have to worry about that too much.
Are you worried about like them filing charges saying, oh, you accepted $10 worth of Bitcoin for, such and such transaction?
Not at all.
No, I think you've got it integrated with your point of sale system, and it's just like taking another form of payment. Like if you decided to accept Canadian currency, you just add that as a method of accepting currency to your point of sale system, and all the rest of the books are the same on the back end, so I don't think it's a problem.
As long as you report and everything correctly, yeah, you're good.
Yeah. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number here at Free Talk Live if you'd like to join us. More with TJ the Spy coming up.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless crime spree.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It is Free Talk Live. It's the Friday night edition. We are the radio call-in talk program where you can take control of the airwaves and talk about, well, anything that's on your mind. We will talk about stuff here ourselves. We always do some show prep, but you can talk about anything that's on your mind. If you happen to want to comment on what we're talking about, that's great too. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
You had mentioned the Crypto 6, and the Crypto 6 are preparing to take on the state with a prospective trial date in May of 2022. They are preparing their defense of liberty and financial freedom against attempts by the state to take control of cryptocurrency by setting up the likes of Coinbase, Gemini, and Kraken as the gatekeepers of cryptocurrency, at least in the U.S. anyway, and further than that. This can't be allowed to happen. We must keep cryptocurrency away from the control of the federal government. It is the only way to keep them from continuing to drop bombs without consequence around the world, wreaking unbelievable devastation and destruction upon innocent human beings. Stand with us in our fight to put an end to war. Visit thecrypto6.com to learn how you can join the fight to defund the war machine. We aren't backing down. Are you going to stand with us? Thecrypto6.com. So, TJ, you had mentioned that Mr. Bitcoin was also supporting the Crypto 6.
Mr. Bitcoin is supporting the Crypto 6. He will be at the trial, whenever that is, in a year. It takes the FBI and the federal government year or 2 years to do anything to get them to finally get to trial.
It took them longer than that. They were investigating, according to them, for 5 years.
Yeah.
I would say it takes the government, no matter what branch, federal, state, local, about an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's hilarious.
So I also, in related news to the Crypto 6, there will be another hearing, a bail hearing for Nobody, formerly known as Rich Paul, who is still a hostage of the federal government. And it looks like it will be a Zoom meeting. All of these have been Zoom meetings, quote, due to COVID, unquote. So you have to join them online rather than showing up in person because these meetings are supposed to be available to the public. So I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but the idea that keeps popping into my head is that if you do join this Zoom meeting to see Nobody's next bail hearing, that within the Zoom itself, you don't have to change your name. You can change just your screen name to Nobody. And that way everybody's Nobody. And Nobody is once again part of everybody.
How would I find this link for the Zoom hearing?
Well, I usually get it from the chats.
And I can find the link to the chat.
I would ask you that.
Thecrypto6.com.
Very well.
There is a Telegram group you can join, and you will definitely get a link if you join the Telegram group for the Zoom hearing. Probably, if it's not already posted, it will be posted, around the time of the hearing.
Traditionally, if we find out about these hearings beforehand, it'll be posted, and then 20 minutes or so before the actual thing goes on, people, hey, has anybody got a link? And somebody will repost it and that kind of thing. So if you don't see one readily, feel free to just ask the room.
They seem to make it difficult for you to find this information out because they want to hinder people seeing what's really going on behind the scenes.
I just had this vision in my head, kind of like V for Vendetta, when everybody shows up wearing the masks. Right? Like everybody shows up to the Zoom meeting being Nobody.
Yeah.
All right. So at any rate,
anyway, if you see Mr. Bitcoin, it's he's a giant Bitcoin, walks around. He has a hat that says government money sucks and in Bitcoin we trust.
Nice.
But giant blue boots. But Ian has some pictures of him. If you see him around town, you can come up to him. I know that he's going to be delivering a dozen roses to Georgiana McDonald, the Assistant United States Attorney in New Hampshire.
What color roses?
The red roses.
Okay, just checking.
Why? Are there different colors? Do the colors mean different things?
They do, yes. For example, the black rose means I wish death upon you.
Oh, really? Well, I better not give her a black rose. I want to give her a red rose, let her know she's loved, even though she's being silly.
And red roses are supposed to be love, and yellow are supposed to be like friendship and that kind of a thing. I don't know all of the colors of the
let's
roses,
be friends thing kind of sounds
Ian's friend zone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, I hope, I don't want to irritate anybody, but, I think it's very important that this case get more public attention than what it's getting, simply because I've bought and sold Bitcoin before.
Yes.
Not to anywhere the degree that Ian has or allegedly has. But it's one of those things that when I see it, I said, this is clearly an overreach.
And the problem is this is something that everybody who uses crypto does occasionally, at least, And so, if you can convict, these individuals on this, if you hold crypto, you could also be convicted on this. And just because you're not doesn't mean they can't come after you anytime, you say something they don't like. And they're trying to create fear amongst cryptocurrency users as well as take out political activists.
Right. They know that the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies is a threat to their very existence.
Right.
The blockchain specifically is a bureaucracy killer, right? For the longest time, humanity has relied on these centralized agencies for things like registration. How do I know my thing is official? How do I know if I buy this car from you that this piece of paper that we sign is official? right? And for the longest time, human beings have relied upon these centralized organizations known as government. Right, you go down to the local whatever building, the DMV, whatever it is, the government agency. You sign the thing, you get an official notarized document, et cetera, and so on. Well, all of this can be replaced by the blockchain.
Yep, absolutely,
all of it, and they know it, and so they're doing their damnedest to slow it down because they fear for their existence as an organization, which they rightly should, in my opinion. I think the blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, the combination of those two things is going to destroy governments as we know
it
them.
Effectively obsoletes a lot of the bureaucracy that is currently government, for sure.
Yeah. And when I first saw Bitcoin back in 2011, I was a graduate student at the University of Missouri at Rolla, or now the Missouri University of Science and Technology. Excuse me. Sure. And I saw it, and I said, this is the future. You're using the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm and the SHA-2 hash algorithm and the blockchain and peer-to-peer networking to create digital money.
Yes.
And it worked, and the source code was sound, and the mathematics was sound, and the network protocols were sound.
People ask me all the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, they go, well, what gives Bitcoin its value? It's like mathematics.
What are you buying when you, like I would explain this, I would go to parties and I said, look, check it out. There's this thing called the Silk Road in 2012. It's a website you can go to on the hidden darknet. The feds allegedly can't shut it down. But the idea is people can buy and sell the different products that they want to sell voluntarily, and that they can pay for it with this thing called Bitcoin. You use PGP encryption so that your shipping address gets sent to the dealer. You pay it within Bitcoin, and then you leave feedback like you do on Amazon, and then in a week, you get your products. And when I saw this, I immediately went to the frat dudes and I said, hey, you got to see this. Watch this. What's your favorite drug? And everybody was like, oxycodone, cocaine. Right. And they were just telling me all the drugs they wanted. And so I sat down with my laptop and I said, all right, in a week, 3.5 grams of cocaine will arrive from Best Blow USA. And I just paid him $100 or, no. I paid him like $300 for, 3.5 grams of very high quality cocaine. And it arrived, and all of a sudden, once these frat guys got a taste of that cocaine, they were like, dude, you got to come to our party. You got to show us how to use the Bitcoin. Like, how does this Bitcoin thing work?
Right.
How does it? And I said, yeah, it's a beautiful technology to circumvent all these government laws that prohibit us from buying and selling products that we want to buy and sell.
Right.
So it allows freedom.
Are you aware that on Craigslist.org, they've put in a new little checkbox on the left-hand side? Craigslist is still a very plain-looking website, but they put in a little checkbox on the left-hand side, and anything that's for sale, you can click the checkbox that says cryptocurrency okay. And so people can list things for sale if they want to buy or sell them using cryptocurrency on Craigslist.
That sounds amazing, because I have some silver bars that I totally would love to sell for crypto. Just accept them or something like that. And
yeah, it just amazes me because Craigslist did to newspapers what I think
to the classifieds.
Yeah, what cryptocurrency and the blockchain are going to do to bureaucracy, which has completely ruined them.
I can't wait.
603-283-6160. What are your thoughts? Is the blockchain going to destroy bureaucracy? More Free Talk Live coming up. Hour number 2 is next.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. At least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. A massive search and rescue operation is now taking place with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland also affected. Reporter Julia Saudelli is in the worst affected region of Western Germany.
There's a lot of destruction here. We've seen people who live here who have had to leave their houses because there's no electricity, there is no water, and most of the ground floors of the homes have been flooded.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the tragedy demonstrates again that urgent action is needed to combat climate change. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to weed out misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. For the second successive day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has accused Facebook of lacking sufficiently robust enforcement strategies.
The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet, which has been disproven time and time again. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health.
It's reported in Washington that the Biden administration has had a series of tense conversations with Facebook executives over the last few weeks. Britain has recorded an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases just ahead of Monday's lifting of remaining pandemic restrictions. Nearly 52,000 new infections were recorded on Thursday and another 49 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 scientists have signed a statement accusing the British government of irresponsibility and immorality in planning to lift restrictions on Monday. Dr. Deepti Gudasani is senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London.
I think a lot of us are gravely concerned about the UK strategy. We had an emergency summit today where this strategy was described by Dr. Hasseltine, a leading virologist in the US, as murderous by the advisor to the Italian government, as diabolical, and by many on the panel as unethical.
The United States has issued an advisory warning American businesses about the risks of operating in Hong Kong. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Jagruti Dave reports.
In the advisory, the State Department, the Treasury, the Commerce Department and the Department of Homeland Security cautioned US firms on the clear operational, financial, legal and reputational risks of doing business in Hong Kong. The risks highlighted include those associated with electronic surveillance without warrants and having to surrender data to authorities. Ahead of the advisory's release, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the United States should stop interfering in Hong Kong's affairs.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the death in hospital yesterday of Dutch journalist Peter de Vries. He was shot in the head 9 days ago after walking out of a television station where he had just given an interview. 2 suspects are in custody being questioned about the shooting. Mr. de Vries was 64. He had devoted his career to investigating the Dutch underworld and its criminal tentacles.
The country is sort of in a bit of a state of national mourning. Thousands of people have sort of turned up in Amsterdam to lay flowers where he was shot. They held a sort of impromptu memorial on the Dam Square in Amsterdam.
Molly Quell is a contributing editor for DutchNews.nl.
He was the Netherlands' most famous journalist, and he was famous sort of worldwide as well. He vaulted to fame, I think, covering 1983 kidnapping of Freddie Heineken, the Heineken heir. And he was also involved in the death of this American teenager in Aruba, I think in 2005. And that's won him an international Emmy. I mean, the sort of condolences have kind of poured in, I think, both across Europe and across the world. He was, quite well known.
2 years ago, police warned Peter de Vries that his name appeared on a gangland hit list. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said Mr. de Vries was afraid of nothing and of no one. We owe it, he said, to ensure that justice takes its course. The main news again, at least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to combat misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. And more than 1,000 global scientists are accusing the British government of immorality in planning to lift COVID-19 restrictions on Monday. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Police in Lehman, Michigan describe a local student's recently foiled plans to commit a deadly school shooting as, quote, embarrassingly bad. Authorities apprehended 17-year-old Trent Bayer Thursday after finding him in an empty hallway struggling to load a pathetically small caliber pistol while simultaneously attempting to unfold an inaccurate map of the school. Lehman Police Chief Ethan Holman elaborated several ways Bayer's strategy could have been more effective, including setting off a homemade explosive in the teacher's lounge, executing popular students first, and at the very least purchasing some military fatigues.
You're not going to intimidate anyone by wearing a tucked-in button-down shirt and pleated trousers.
In other news, a jar of change on a dresser is sadly factoring into a number of financial decisions. A teen zebra doesn't give a shit how much you honk, it's not getting out of the road. And Dad's new 20-year-old Thai boyfriend really sucks at categories. And don't forget to never ever drink Pepsi-Cola, whose dipshit marketing team backed out of a full-page ad buy at the last minute. For more news, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks for tuning in and listening, everybody. It is the Friday night edition of Free Talk Live. What is Free Talk Live? We're a live call-in radio talk program that also broadcasts over the internet and some satellite channels, so we're worldwide in that respect. But we're a program where you can call in and take control of the radio, talk about whatever's on your mind. The telephone number to do that is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160 if you would like to call in and join in the conversation tonight. I am your host, the Lord, Dr. Reverend Captain Kickass is here, and joining me,
Chris and TJ the Spy.
And we've been talking about all sorts of things. We've been talking about TJ the Spy's past. We've been talking about recreational marijuana. We've been talking about Mr. Bitcoin and how what are his plans for his activism in bringing the joys of Bitcoin to, well, planet Earth.
Yes, that's one of the things about Mr. Bitcoin. He wants to basically get as many people to install Bitcoin wallets as he can, because the thing is, people hear about Bitcoin a lot, but they don't take that step to actually install Coinomi, install Edge, install Mycelium, install Jax,
right,
one of those Bitcoin wallets, and say, okay, today is the day I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out and lose my Bitcoin virginity, and I'm going to purchase Bitcoin for the first time.
There are a handful of folks that I introduced to cryptocurrency, and they are all very happy people.
I imagine so. Very, very well off.
Because it was some time ago, they took a risk. They looked at the technology, they read the white paper, they listened to me, right, first of all, and I was all like, look, don't just do it because I'm saying to do it. Yeah, I'm your friend and everything, but look at it. I'm telling you that this thing is a game changer. I've seen this before. I've seen technology do this before, and I missed out, right? I missed out on, the transition from pagers to cell phones, right? I could have invested in a cell phone company and made a bunch of money, right? Stock-wise, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. The same thing with like Microsoft and Apple.
Yeah.
I could have threw some money at those guys and made a bunch of money. I'm that old, right? I could have thrown money at any of the search engines back in the day, in the old search engine wars days of the
And now,
late 90s.
and we're telling you, now is the time. Like crypto goes up and down, but over the long term, over the next 10 years, whatever you pay for it now is irrelevant. It's going to be worth a lot more in 10 years.
Yeah, it's it's interesting how many people keep secrets in this community who have gotten very wealthy from having crypto. I mean, you just look to your left, look to your right, and they're being very secretive about it for a reason.
Hey, I'm retired, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, right.
I will even go so far as to say the people that I have turned on to cryptocurrency have done far better than I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's like
I love to see that. I love hearing stories about people who bought in and when it was $5, $50, $500, $5,000, and now that Bitcoin's up to 30 grand.
It doesn't even matter at what point you bought in. If you bought in a couple of years ago, which is going to be the same thing in a couple of years.
If you buy in today,
right.
It's still
it's going to take a couple of years for you to become well off as a result, and you do need to buy enough of it or accept enough of it and hold on to it long enough. But if you do that for 3-4 years, you will almost certainly also be very wealthy in the future.
And the reason is because the Federal Reserve is printing up trillions of dollars to pay for the federal government. And you can't do that without having massive inflation.
Right.
So we're starting to see, 5%. We're having annualized month-to-month inflation of 1%.
Yep.
So if this if inflation keeps growing at the rate it grew last month for the next 12 months, we're going to have 12% inflation.
Yeah.
So
At what point does inflation become hyperinflation?
I think it's already
when
higher
you start
than that.
when you hyperinflation, according to Wikipedia, is generally defined when you have things like 50% per day. When you measure inflation in days or hours. So normally we measure inflation in years. Like we'll say, it's 5% per year, 10% per year. But when it gets so bad that the people are saying, oh no, prices are going up 50% a day, that's typically hyperinflation.
Here's the thing. We've already seen like massive increases in like the cost of goods. What was it? Walmart, like even during COVID, it went up about 13% just during like a very short period. And that's because of all of the hidden taxation that the U.S. government's doing. That doesn't include the other inflation that you guys are talking about right now.
When you hear the Federal Reserve say this inflation is transitory, it's just short term, that is not true at all. This is just getting started. The inflation party is here. We are going to have a very, very bad inflationary recession coming up.
I want to take a bit of a segue here because I think both of you guys will recall. Do you remember a guy who accidentally threw away 7,500 Bitcoins?
Yes.
Like a lost hard drive kind
Yes.
of a thing? Well, he's back in the news. Man who accidentally threw away 7,500 Bitcoins on a hard drive has a new plan to retrieve his Bitcoin. British man who accidentally threw away a computer with 7,500 Bitcoins on its hard drive has come up with a new plan to retrieve his lost coins from the city landfill.
Yes, I've heard about this story.
What is his plan?
James Howells, an IT engineer who accidentally threw away the hard drive of an old computer containing 7,500 Bitcoins back in 2013, has not given up his quest to retrieve his coins. The 35-year-old from the city of Newport in the UK has shared with the Sun publication his 12-month plan. 12-month plan. Sorry, I have to say that again. His 12-month plan to search the city landfill using X-ray scanning devices and AI technology.
I like this idea. This is kind of cool.
A high-tech solution to a low-tech problem.
Whether or not it will work, I don't know. How many other people have hard drives that have been dumped over the past year?
Now, this gets to a little rant that I have to go on.
Go ahead.
Back up your seed phrase, people. If you have a cryptocurrency wallet, if you lose your phone, you will lose all your money on that phone unless you've backed up your seed phrase.
This is the thing. This is why I like the Edge Wallet. Edge Wallet does that for you. It encrypts it and it backs it up to a server. So even if you lose your phone, you don't even have to have a backup of the seed phrase. All you have to do is remember the username and password. And if you can do that much, you will be able to recover your crypto.
Good.
Yes. And of course, not your keys, not your money is the mantra of all early Bitcoin adopters.
And that's the other thing about Edge Wallet. It is still your Bitcoin because even though somebody else has it, they don't have access to it because it's encrypted.
So the article continues, noting that this would be a proper search, not just somebody going in with a bucket and a spade, the British man affirmed. this would be a delicate search because we wouldn't want to damage the hard drive in the process. You can't just use a claw grabber. In my head, I envision one of those coin-operated machines with the little stuffed animals, and the guy's going in there just trying to find, the right stuffed animal. He says, we've spoken to excavation experts and proper engineers to make sure it was all being done correctly, as well in a way that was safe for the environment. Howells added that over the past 4 or 5 months, he had been talking to some of the best data recovery experts in the world to make sure that we can get the information off the hard drive. So I guess that's a concern. Like,
I would hold my
breath. If
breath.
he finds the hard drive, is he going to be able to retrieve the data properly off the hard drive?
Yeah.
Right? What has the hard drive been exposed to?
The problem is most of the hard drive recovery, experts, they're not really doing anything other than like looking at drives that effectively still function and maybe were formatted or something. So as soon as the drive physically is damaged, it's probably going to be irrecoverable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about recovering data from hard drives to know. But the search will be costly. Howell said that his plan is backed by a very rich hedge fund, willing to cover the cost of the search and the equipment involved in exchange for the lion's share of his fortune. Howells believes that his hard drive is in a 200-meter squared area and could be 15 meters deep based on aerial photographs of the site, the IT engineer said. Sounds like he's done some homework anyway, narrowing it down to a very specific area of the landfill.
I want to know how you figure out where to start digging in the first place.
Forensics investigation, I guess. I mean, I don't really know.
Do these trucks dump it in a very particular area? Like, I guess they do.
I would imagine, yeah. I mean,
depending on the day and the date.
Yeah.
But
your trash gets picked up on Wednesday? Well, then it goes over to this transfer station, and from there it gets packed up and shipped over to, this dump yard. And they generally dump it over there.
Yeah, all right.
More Free Talk Live is on the way. 603-283-6160.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. The telephone number in studio, if you'd like to join us, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
This just in, Mr. Bitcoin has been spotted in the Keene area. Now, I don't know, there's a picture circulating on the interweb somewhere of Mr. Bitcoin. He's certainly in Keene. I just happen to know the location where the photo was taken. So Mr. Bitcoin has arrived in the Keene area, in case you folks were wondering.
Yes, you'll be seeing him more this Monday and possibly this weekend at various spots around Keene. And if you see him, just come up to him and say, hey, I want to learn how to install a cryptocurrency wallet. Or today's the day I'm going to finally take the plunge and buy some crypto. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin. It could be Bitcoin Cash. It could be Litecoin. It could be Dash. It could be Ethereum.
Or
it
Monero.
Could be or Monero. It could
There we
be.
go.
Yeah, we have tons of crypto for sale.
Has Mr. Bitcoin authorized you to tell folks what the Monday event will be?
Not yet. We're
Okay.
still. It's
All right.
it's one of those things because I'm in touch with Mr. Bitcoin. We're going to find out what the schedule is, but he'll be around for the next week here in New Hampshire, going around, starting out at the Mighty Moose Mart, which is the site of the FBI raid. He's wanting to pay homage to the sadness. He's sad that the FBI came in and stole some of his fellow Bitcoin.
They sure did.
So is the rumor true that Mr. Bitcoin might actually be selling?
Yes, it is true. He might be selling or buying Bitcoin,
Ooh.
which would violate the law according to the U.S. federal government because he's not a
gonna
licensed
defy
money
the
transmitter.
FBI?
He's going to defy
And the
FinCEN
Treasury?
and the IRS and the Treasury.
IRS?
Yes.
Wow.
I like this, Mr. Bitcoin.
I
Mr.
love this, Mr.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. I am definitely going to be buying some Bitcoin
He's-
Bitcoin Cash or something
he's the hero
if I
we
run into
need.
this Mr. Bitcoin here.
He's the hero we need.
Yes,
absolutely.
definitely. So that's the thing. We will have more photos if you go to freekeene.com. There will be some articles coming out over the next few weeks of what's going on with Mr. Bitcoin. And of course, if you don't have a cryptocurrency wallet, I personally use Koinomi, but I know that Edge is a popular one here for Free Talk Live.
I use both, actually, and because Koinomi supports different coins than Edge does.
Yes.
There's some overlap in that they both will support
the biggies.
Similars. But then if you get into like the more minor
Fearos
coins
and
and that
the
kind
Raven
of thing,
coins and the...
yeah, I had a need to accept one of the smaller cryptocurrencies, and so I just downloaded Coinomi, and so now I use it for a couple of things, at the same time that I use Edge. But we were talking about people who sort of have already gotten into the cryptocurrencies, and like I've seen this pattern with technology throughout my life, and I've missed out on almost every one of them except this one, right? I've seen this pattern before, and so that's why I jumped on. I'm like, I have seen this pattern with technology before. I know what's going to happen. I better get in now. I better become an early adopter now, and I did. And I've done okay. Don't get me wrong. Other people have done far better than I have. But it's still early. Yes, we're a little more than a decade into
Do you guys
invention.
know how long it took credit cards to get off the ground?
Like 30 years or something?
It was more than 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we're a decade in, but there's another 30 years to go before this stuff becomes, widespread.
Well, and I know just the internet itself took a long time.
20 years? 20, 30 years to become fully mature.
It existed, and then it was just like bulletin boards and stuff like that. And then the first killer app came along, and that was email. And I remember, mid 90s now, watching, I used to work graveyard, so I'd come home early in the morning, and like one of those early morning, like the Today Show, something like that was on. And they were talking about, what is this @ sign that we must put in? They were trying to decipher and figure out, what is email? Why can't we just put a stamp on an envelope? Why do we need email?
I remember the days when, go ahead, Chris.
I remember the early days of the internet, and there was a lot of money to be made then, but there is even more money to be made now. So it has really grown beyond, I think, anybody's really wildest expectations.
Certainly has mine. I never saw Bitcoin at $50,000, $60,000.
And cryptocurrency is the same thing. It's not even off the ground yet. I mean, look to your left, look to your right. In most places, the people haven't even touched it yet. So it's got a long way.
Ask yourself this. How many people do you know own Bitcoin? Like if I were to go out on the streets of Keene and say, hey, do you have any Bitcoin?
A lot for me, but
I know our friends, because we travel in crypto circles, but if just the average person, do you have any actual Bitcoin on your wallet, or on your Trezor wallet, on your Coinomi wallet? How much do you actually have? I'm willing to bet you most people have none.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because I see people picking it up every single week. I see, at least a couple of people that I have never met before install for the first time a crypto wallet. Yeah. So,
and we're doing this not to take money. I mean, to run a scam on people. We're doing this because we don't want people to keep being poor.
Yeah.
Well, that and
exploited.
Well, right. And one of
by government.
In fact, the fundamental reason that I choose to use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is because it does not support the war machine.
Correct.
If you are anti-war,
Bitcoin, not bombs.
Right. If you are anti-war, then you absolutely should not only be an early adopter, but you should be leading the pack for the rest of your anti-war crowd that you may or may not, run in the circles of, because it just makes me so angry to know that every time I get taxed on some purchase or some income that I made or something along those lines, that it is going to harm other people that I never gave my consent to.
It's even more complicated than that. I mean, certainly the taxes, are propping up the U.S. government, but so is just using the dollar.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Just transacting in USD.
Even if you stop paying taxes altogether, right? You never pay another sales tax. You don't pay income tax. You don't pay property taxes anymore,
which is almost impossible to do.
Right, pretty much. But if you say that's true, right? If you continue to use the dollar, you're using the government's money, and you are propping up the dollar, and you are propping up the war machine.
Yes.
So, that's one of the things. The Department of Defense, they're $700 billion a year. And if you take 300 million Americans, I think I misspoke last time I said 300 million taxpayers. I meant to say there's roughly 300 million Americans. There's actually 330 million or a little bit more than that.
Yeah, that's about right.
But the point I'm trying to make when you're doing estimation, you can actually do arithmetic in your head very quickly. Watch this. 300 million times 10 is what? 3 billion.
Yep.
300 million times 100 is what? 30 billion. 300 million times 1,000 is what? $300 billion. So you multiply by 2 and just get a little bit more. So about a little over $2,000 per person per year. So every year, that $700 billion bill for all those F-22s and those bases overseas and those aircraft carriers, and even my salary at the NSA, all of that, you have to pay $2,000 per American citizen.
Yep.
And that's you think about that. I'd rather have $2,000 extra cash in my pocket every year than to have all these F-22s launching missiles on foreign soil.
Well, and this is how deranged the organization known as government is. All of these politicians have been talking, particularly through COVID, about stimulus plan, and we have to give people some money. Well, you know what? Real easy. Just forgive income tax for a year. That would be the best stimulus package you could offer to the American people, is to just, okay, nobody owes any income tax this year. Because it all just goes to pay the interest on the national debt anyway. They're just printing up all this fake money. Why not? Why not? 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. At least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. A massive search and rescue operation is now taking place with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland also affected. Reporter Julia Saudelli is in the worst affected region of Western Germany.
There's a lot of destruction here. We've seen people who live here who have had to leave their houses because there's no electricity, there is no water, and most of the ground floors of the homes have been flooded.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the tragedy demonstrates again that urgent action is needed to combat climate change. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to weed out misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. For the second successive day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has accused Facebook of lacking sufficiently robust enforcement strategies.
The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet, which has been disproven time and time again. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health.
It's reported in Washington that the Biden administration has had a series of tense conversations with Facebook executives over the last few weeks. Britain has recorded an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases just ahead of Monday's lifting of remaining pandemic restrictions. Nearly 52,000 new infections were recorded on Thursday and another 49 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 scientists have signed a statement accusing the British government of irresponsibility and immorality in planning to lift restrictions on Monday. Dr. Deepti Gudasani is senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London.
I think a lot of us are gravely concerned about the UK strategy. We had an emergency summit today where this strategy was described by Dr. Hasseltine, a leading virologist in the US, as murderous by the advisor to the Italian government, as diabolical, and by many on the panel as unethical.
The United States has issued an advisory warning American businesses about the risks of operating in Hong Kong. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Jagruti Dave reports.
In the advisory, the State Department, the Treasury, the Commerce Department and the Department of Homeland Security cautioned US firms on the clear operational, financial, legal and reputational risks of doing business in Hong Kong. The risks highlighted include those associated with electronic surveillance without warrants and having to surrender data to authorities. Ahead of the advisory's release, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the United States should stop interfering in Hong Kong's affairs.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Hey, I got a question for both of you guys.
Go ahead.
What did they find in the toilets of the Starship Enterprise?
I don't think we can say that on air.
The captain's log. Yes, it is Free Talk Live, in case you're wondering. I've got dad jokes all day long. So if you need more, let me know. I'll try and, remember some. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. If you would like to join us in the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Chris,
and TJ the Spy.
Now, I want to circle back because we were talking about this guy who lost 7,500 Bitcoins. He believes they're located, this is a guy in the UK, he believes they're located in a very specific dump, in a very specific area within the dump. Or landfill, I guess is technically what it's called. He believes it's in a 200-meter squared area and could be as deep as 15 meters. So, I mean, that's quite a chunk to search. Now, this guy's a former IT engineer, and he said, despite having a plan, the Newport City Council would not let him search the landfill even after he offered them 55 million pounds, right? Because it's UK, right?
Yeah.
76 million U.S. The Newport City Council explained that the cost of digging up the landfill, storing and treating the waste could run into millions of pounds without any guarantee of either finding it or it still being in working order. Moreover, the council stated that the excavation is not possible under our licensing permit, and excavation itself would have a huge environmental impact on the surrounding area. At the time that this article was written, 7,500 Bitcoins were worth about $246 million.
Wow.
And when was this written?
That sounds like about $30,000 a Bitcoin. So if you have 7,500 Bitcoin times 1,000.
Wait, 7,500?
7,500. 7,500.
Wow.
July 16th.
Times 1,000, that's 7 million. Times yep, that sounds about right.
I thought it was
210
Bitcoin.
No.
7,500 Bitcoin.
You think you'd do this all for 7,500, 75 Bitcoin? No, it's 7,500.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you have to split it 3 ways or something, you still get like $100 million.
Right?
Thereabouts, right? Quick math, right?
Can he buy the dump for that amount?
That's what I would do. I would just buy the dump.
Well, it seems to be owned by the city.
I'd bribe the politicians.
Yeah, but the city might sell for that kind of money.
Yeah. There's a quote here that says, we estimate there's between 300,000 and 400,000 tons of waste to look through in that particular section that this guy wants to find.
Yeah.
How far would you guys go to retrieve these Bitcoin?
It's funny because I've lost a few, like I've lost very, very tiny amounts, like a tenth of a Bitcoin. Because at the time, a tenth of a Bitcoin was like less than a penny.
Yep.
So I didn't think about it. But now I'm thinking, if I had just held on to that tenth of a Bitcoin, it would be worth $3,000 now.
So I've always made sure that there was nothing left in my wallets before I disposed of them.
Right. Okay. But let's just say you accidentally threw away a hard drive with 7,500 Bitcoins.
There's backups.
How much
I'm not that,
time
I'm
and
not
effort?
that.
See, Chris and I, we're both IT people. Chris
Yeah.
is computer science and I'm computer engineering. So we both believe in backups.
Let's say that your backups fail.
Dude, okay. Here's the thing. You need to make backups of your 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 backups.
You can never have.
There's.
You can never have too many backups. That's my philosophy.
Yes, we're all the lessons here. But let's just say you're this guy. Put yourself in his shoes for a minute. How much time and effort would you spend the rest of your life trying to get this?
No, I wouldn't.
I mean,
I would just cry and
it's probably doesn't make sense to spend the rest of my life doing it, but it probably is worth spending.
I think it said
time
he was
and
like
energy on.
in his mid 30s, maybe late 30s, so 35, 40 years old or something.
Yeah, I mean, and if somebody else is covering the costs effectively, which it sounds like that's the case, then yeah, I think this makes sense to pursue.
At what point would it no longer make sense? What dollar figure do you think you would give up? When you could only get like $1 million, $5 million.
I mean,
it's kind of like the person who throws away the winning lottery ticket. How much effort would you go to?
It's exactly. Yeah, it's a very good analogy.
Yeah. How much effort would you go to get that little scrap of paper that could be in any one of thousands of bags?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody else is willing to do it for a cut,
of the money, I don't even know why would you not do it is really the question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get any amount of it back, almost, I would think it would be worth pursuing.
I mean, do you see it like, I could see something like this ruining a person's life, right? Like somebody being so obsessed with finding his missing Bitcoins that he spends the rest of his life in search of these things instead of like, oh, I don't know, actually living and enjoying life.
I mean, I think spending 10 years on a project like this might make sense. I mean, with the amount of money that you're talking about here, especially if somebody else is flipping the bill for it and you're going to get at least, a couple million out of it. Sure, definitely. Even if you lose most of it, it's still a couple $1 million.
Do you think that, like the old excavators that the archaeologists go looking for sunken Spanish gold treasure and pirate treasure, do you think that that'll be a thing in like 100 years when Bitcoin is $10 billion a Bitcoin? That people are going to be going through the landfills trying to look for sunken hard drives and old seed phrase plates and old... oh, this was a seed phrase for a Trezor wallet. We should check and see if it has any Bitcoin left on it.
Right. Somebody finds a Casasius coin somewhere.
Yeah.
Or one of those the Bitcoin certificates.
Yeah, the Bitcoin paper wallets.
Now, I did lose, but then successfully retrieved some Ethereum. There was in the ICO, early ICO days, there was something that me and a friend of mine who I got into cryptocurrency, we both read this white paper. We were excited about the project. We're like, yeah, we'll throw some Ethereum at this thing. And so I threw one Ethereum at it. But the thing is like it was early MetaMask days and you had to jump through so many hoops and you had to put more Ethereum into it than what it cost you to send to pay the gas fees and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up throwing, I think it was an Ethereum and a half or something into this thing. I sent one Ethereum to this place and they disappeared, of course, because that's what happens to these ICOs. But I was unable to retrieve my other, we'll call it a half of an Ethereum from that MetaMask because it was a browser-based thing, and for whatever reason, the computer that I had at the time, something happened to the browser, and like it wouldn't allow me to log in. I did have my backup phrase. I was unable to uninstall, reinstall, and put the backup phrase in and retrieve it for an amount of time. I just sort of left it alone at some point. I'm like, okay. I had bought into Ethereum back in the day at $10 when Ethereum was $10, which, it's not now. And
what's it currently?
I don't know.
Oh, Ethereum, it's about 2,200 last time I checked.
Okay.
It went up to 4,000 briefly, and then it came back down.
I thought it came down.
I mean, if you want me, I can actually go online right now.
Well, weird. That's possible? You could just consult the magic rectangle?
I can consult the magic rectangle. Right now it is pricing at $18.84 per Ethereum.
Okay. So
I mean, so that's like a couple $1,000s at most.
Half an Ethereum, so $900 or something like that.
Yeah.
So at any rate, time goes by and, I moved to Keene, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And when I did that, it forced me to go through a lot of my old stuff and go keep, throw away, donate, sell, right? These were the four categories of stuff. And I found my phrase that you guys were talking about. And so when I got here, I teched up, I got a new computer, and I went out to the MetaMask site and I, did the thing and I put the phrase in, bingo, got my half of Ethereum back. So,
well, congratulations.
I was
and I hope you hodl it, don't spend it.
Yeah, it's in the whelping box with all my other baby Ethereum.
Okay, good.
The whelping box is where you
I actually have my own Ethereum 20 token, ERC 20 token called Spy Coin.
Nice.
Yes, and there's 5,000 of them, and I have 4,997 left, and so I spent thousands of dollars now in Ethereum because at the time the Ethereum fees were small, but now I said, wow. That was a lot of money to spend for a little trinket, a digital trinket coin.
603-283-6160. Do you have your own token? More Free Talk Live coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Resuming the program is broadcasting is Free Talk Live. I don't do a very good Yoda voice, otherwise I would attempt to do all that. Yoda.
Oh.
Oh.
The force is strong in this one.
The phone number is 603. No, I have to do it in backwards talk, though. Backwards, inverted sentences.
I was thinking you might be having a stroke there.
It's almost Kermit the Frog when I do it. Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Yeah. What is the number if you want to call and take control of the radios, Captain?
Well, TJ, the phone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the Captain.
Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
Now, Chris, you brought something in from Is it TechCrunch.com?
I do believe it is, yes.
And this was interesting. We talked a little bit about it off there, but what do you got?
Yeah, so story says India bans MasterCard from adding new customers.
Why would a country ban one specific card?
It's very bizarre. You know, I almost wonder, is this somehow crypto related?
Let's find out.
Yeah. Reserve Bank of India has indefinitely barred MasterCard from issuing new debit, credit, or prepaid cards to customers in the South Asian market over non-compliance with local data storage rules. The South Asian market's central bank said the new restrictions will go into effect on July 22nd, notwithstanding lapse of considerable time and adequate opportunities being given. The entity has been found to be non-compliant with the directions on storage payment system data, RBI said in a statement Wednesday. It sounds like they basically are trying to force businesses to do
know your customer, anti-money laundering, compliance law type stuff.
No, I don't even think it's that.
Data storage rules.
It sounds more like, NSA kind of spying on individuals within the country, potentially, to me, doesn't it?
I'm still not certain what they mean by non-compliance with local data storage rules.
So
does that mean that
they have to have servers in the country with the consumer's data of people in India?
So
when transactions
India
are
wants to
processed.
have some of this information, or the majority of the information, I assume,
yeah,
on servers contained within the borders of, quote, India, unquote.
Yeah. So
Okay.
this wouldn't apply just to credit card payments or financial payments. This would apply to, like Telegram and, Amazon and anybody who operates or sells or does business with people in India. That entity has to set up servers in the country.
This is surprising coming from India, as many of our listeners
Well,
will
Russia has done something similar as well as some other countries as well.
Many of our listeners will identify India as a primary country with which we outsource tech support to.
It is.
And it's interesting to me that it sounds like they don't understand how the internet works.
It does, doesn't it?
Or they have some other sinister, plan that has yet to be revealed.
Yeah. The new order won't impact existing customers of MasterCard, which is one of the top 3 card issuers in India, RBI said. So they're basically trying to punish MasterCard. MasterCard shall advise all card issuing banks and non-banks to conform to these directions, it said. So basically to stop issuing cards.
Right.
This isn't the first time India's central bank has penalized a firm for non-compliance with local data storage rules, which were unveiled in 2018 and mandated compliance within 6 months. The rules require payment firms to store all. Oh, so wait a minute. It is specific to payment firms. Interesting. The rules require payments firms to store all Indian transaction data within servers in the country.
Okay, so we were on the right track with saying, yes, they want the data to be stored within the borders of their country, arguably so that they can exercise some sort of jurisdiction over them.
I thought this was broader than it apparently is, because there are countries like Russia, which is requiring anybody who basically has data on Russian citizens to basically operate servers in Russia. And that's not the only country doing that. But this is sort of similar, except that it doesn't appear to apply to every company. It only applies to, I guess, financial institutions. In April, RBI restricted American Express and Diner Club from adding new customers, citing a violation of the same rules. You have to wonder, though, if nobody's complying, at some point you are going to have a problem, economically speaking.
Well, you touch on something that is a much broader thing, and that's non-compliance is the way out of all of this mess.
Right. If nobody complies, then what is India really going to do? I mean, it's going to take them time to build up a alternative system that is operating within their country. It's not to say that they can't do it, but they needed to have something in place before they pass the law in order to compete. Right.
Also, Diners Club? Diners Club? Do you know anybody? Have you ever known anybody?
I've never had anybody with the Diners Club.
No, me
Have you
either.
ever even seen a diner? I've seen the logo.
I know what the logo looks like, but I think if you went in with a Diners Club and tried to pay, I think they would look at you going, "What is this? We don't know what to do with this."
You know what's funny is I think Diners Club was one of the first credit card.
It was the first.
The first?
Yeah, it was the first.
Wow.
Yeah, it was targeting business owners and basically I think restaurants and hotels basically, and they targeted traveling business salesmen.
Yeah, but like I'm 49 years old.
It predates you.
I've seen almost every kind of financial transaction that most consumers make in the United States anyway. I have never, ever seen a Diners Club card ever for anything. Not at a restaurant, not at a hotel,
It goes
not at a
back-
convenience store, not a grocery store, not a department store.
I've never
nothing,
seen
man.
an ad for one.
it's-
I've never seen a application
I've
for
definitely
one.
heard of Diners Club, and I have seen advertising for them like in the 90s probably. But you know what? It's something that goes back to like I think the 40s. Like it goes back way farther than you would think.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about when I say 40 years, for credit cards to be or Bitcoin to be widespread, because it took more than 40 years. Even if it was the 80s, right? Even in the 80s, people in the United States, a lot of people didn't have credit cards. And, it wasn't really until the 90s that it became so ubiquitous. If we really start talking about, and even now in other countries, credit cards are not as, ubiquitous as they are in the United States. If you go, and I'm not even talking about third world countries, I'm talking about like Europe, like country,
Right.
that's not a country, but you get what I'm saying. You know?
Your article said RBI restricted American Express and Diners Club from adding new customers, citing violation of the same rules. And so I'm just wondering if Diners Club is just like, oh, whatever, we don't do any business there anyway.
And the thing is, with this is that basically India has already outlawed currency, like hard currency, like physical dollars. So you can only get up to technically not all currency, but it's like you can only have bills that are smaller than like basically something like $5 or something like that, like some really small number. So think about if you're going to be paying in cash, you've got to be carrying around a ton of like bills in order to make payment for stuff.
Get your wheelbarrow ready.
Yeah. So this theoretically should have a seriously negative impact on, India's economy if you're going to start cutting off new customers.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So far, it seems that existing customers, if they have a MasterCard or an American Express or Diners Club, that they're okay.
Yeah.
They won't be affected. It's just that if anybody wants to get one that didn't have one before, they're not going to allow that.
Right, exactly. So it's not, and it's interesting that they're doing only new customers, and I would suspect the reason for that is because they recognize how incredibly critical having these these companies continue to operate is.
Well, I mean, I know the big picture answer to this, but I want to know what India's enforcement mechanism is. Like how do they even know that MasterCard issued a new card to Jim Bob?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I presume if they continue to operate, that somebody would notice at some point, and then they would go after them.
Okay, I'll continue.
But yeah, Visa, MasterCard, and several other firms, as well as the U.S. government, have previously requested New Delhi reconsider its rules, which they have argued are designed to allow regulator unfettered supervisory access. Visa, MasterCard, and American Express had also lobbied to either significantly change the rules or completely discard them. So, that's basically the story. It's absolutely disturbing to me what governments to the level of which governments will go in order to control its people, and India is, I think, at one of those extremes.
I do have a solution for these people, though, who maybe are going to apply for a Master or an American Express or even a Diners Club, and they get turned down because they're like, "Oh, the government won't issue it." They'll fine, just transact in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because Bitcoin is definitely something that's popular in India, and it's one of the reasons why Purse is
all those smart Indian
successful.
engineers.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number if you'd like to join us here at Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. At least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. A massive search and rescue operation is now taking place with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland also affected. Reporter Julia Saudelli is in the worst affected region of Western Germany.
There's a lot of destruction here. We've seen people who live here who have had to leave their houses because there's no electricity, there is no water, and most of the ground floors of the homes have been flooded.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the tragedy demonstrates again that urgent action is needed to combat climate change. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to weed out misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. For the second successive day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has accused Facebook of lacking sufficiently robust enforcement strategies.
The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet, which has been disproven time and time again. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health.
It's reported in Washington that the Biden administration has had a series of tense conversations with Facebook executives over the last few weeks. Britain has recorded an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases just ahead of Monday's lifting of remaining pandemic restrictions. Nearly 52,000 new infections were recorded on Thursday and another 49 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 scientists have signed a statement accusing the British government of irresponsibility and immorality in planning to lift restrictions on Monday. Dr. Deepti Gudasani is senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London.
I think a lot of us are gravely concerned about the UK strategy. We had an emergency summit today where this strategy was described by Dr. Hasseltine, a leading virologist in the US, as murderous by the advisor to the Italian government, as diabolical, and by many on the panel as unethical.
The United States has issued an advisory warning American businesses about the risks of operating in Hong Kong. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Jagruti Dave reports.
In the advisory, the State Department, the Treasury, the Commerce Department and the Department of Homeland Security cautioned US firms on the clear operational, financial, legal and reputational risks of doing business in Hong Kong. The risks highlighted include those associated with electronic surveillance without warrants and having to surrender data to authorities. Ahead of the advisory's release, China's foreign ministry spokesperson said the United States should stop interfering in Hong Kong's affairs.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the death in hospital yesterday of Dutch journalist Peter de Vries. He was shot in the head 9 days ago after walking out of a television station where he had just given an interview. 2 suspects are in custody being questioned about the shooting. Mr. de Vries was 64. He had devoted his career to investigating the Dutch underworld and its criminal tentacles.
The country is sort of in a bit of a state of national mourning. Thousands of people have sort of turned up in Amsterdam to lay flowers where he was shot. They held a sort of impromptu memorial on the Dam Square in Amsterdam.
Molly Quell is a contributing editor for DutchNews.nl.
He was the Netherlands' most famous journalist, and he was famous sort of worldwide as well. He vaulted to fame, I think, covering 1983 kidnapping of Freddie Heineken, the Heineken heir. And he was also involved in the death of this American teenager in Aruba, I think in 2005. And that's won him an international Emmy. I mean, the sort of condolences have kind of poured in, I think, both across Europe and across the world. He was, quite well known.
2 years ago, police warned Peter de Vries that his name appeared on a gangland hit list. The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said Mr. de Vries was afraid of nothing and of no one. We owe it, he said, to ensure that justice takes its course. The main news again, at least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to combat misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. And more than 1,000 global scientists are accusing the British government of immorality in planning to lift COVID-19 restrictions on Monday. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
House of Representatives Bill 323, the IHOP should stay open all night so we can get some Pancakes Act. This bill was submitted for immediate review very late last night under the provisions of the National Emergency Legislation Act.
Can we dim the lights? It's really bright.
H.R. 323 would by federal order require all IHOP restaurants to, quote, remain open 24 hours effective right this minute, even if some manager has to get out of bed and drive down here to start making some pancakes.
Well, we stand by the bill.
Right. We wrote it, apparently.
This bill would also require the federal government pay to build a tram or monorail or whatever connecting the Black Sheep Pub on North Capitol Street to all IHOP restaurants.
I think
in the
we made
city.
some illustrations of
The bill
that.
gives the estimated cost of the tram as probably not even that much. You are wasting my time and the time of this committee.
I gotta go.
What? Congressman, this committee is still in session. You can't.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
You got a good radio voice,
Yeah.
TJ.
Well, thank you.
I'm fair to Midland in the radio. Like, people who don't know radio voices, they're like, you have a good radio voice. I say thank you. But I don't know, man. That guy Zeus, who does some
Zeus,
of the
who does the really deep voice.
Man,
He has a set of pipes on him.
That is an amazing radio voice, is what it is. Anyway, this is Free Talk Live. Our telephone number in the studio, if you would like to take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
And Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
Now, we've been talking about all sorts of things, but I do want to remind you again that the Crypto 6 are preparing to take on the state with a prospective trial date of May 2022. They are preparing their defense of liberty and financial freedom against attempts by the state to take control of cryptocurrency. This would mean that only the likes of Coinbase, Gemini, and Kraken would be the gatekeepers of cryptocurrency, and that can't be allowed to happen. We must keep cryptocurrency away from the control of federal governments. It is the only way to keep them from continuing to drop bombs without consequence around the world, wreaking unbelievable devastation and destruction upon innocent humans. Stand with us in our fight to put an end to war. Visit thecrypto6.com to learn how you can join the fight to defund the war machine. We aren't backing down. Are you going to stand with us? Thecrypto6.com.
Yeah. I know Mr. Bitcoin's going to be there at the trial in 2022. So if you want to see Mr. Bitcoin live in person, be sure to come out in 2022. We don't know exactly when the trial is going to be, but I heard it's going to be July or August of 2022, somewhere around then.
Well, that's when it's going to initially be scheduled for. And as we've seen with many other trials that we've paid attention to,
many,
these things tend to shift depending on, the prosecution, the defense, if they have time to go through all the stuff, do they, blah, 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 can they get their witnesses? And, they may call, I wouldn't, even if they gave us a solid date, I would be willing to bet it's not going to happen on that date.
Yeah, I suspect it's not going to get pushed back farther than 2022 if the decision comes down to nobody not being released. I think the judge has kind of already implied that, but doesn't look like he's being released. So 2022, probably at some point in 2022.
Yep. If you want to send correspondence to nobody, formerly known as Rich Paul, go to thecrypto6.com. There's some information there on how to mail him stuff. Be advised that basically black ink or blue ink on paper is recommended. There's been, you have to use an actual return address for it to receive him, or for him to receive it. There's some other rules that the state has about receiving mail and that kind of thing. Don't send him things. Don't send him contraband, that kind of thing. But he would appreciate, books, writing a letter to him, that kind of a thing, while he's still in. So
he won't get it if it's not a magazine from the publisher or a book from Amazon. He won't get it basically, unless it's like something that's actually like a piece of paper, with either printed or blue or black ink, as you were saying. And there's more details on like how to address the envelopes at thecrypto6.com. There's a link on thecrypto6.com that is the crypto6.com, where it will give you details on how to address it.
All right, so we're into the third hour here. This hasn't been talked about here on Free Talk Live as of yet, so I thought we'd talk about it here today, especially we've been talking about cryptocurrency a bunch. This is from FEE, or the Foundation for Economic Education. Exposed. Congressman trying to shut down cryptocurrency gets biggest donations from big banks and financial institutions.
Oh, why does this not surprise anybody?
I'm not in the least bit surprised. I read this headline. I'm like, yep. Like, I kind of knew this was, the case, but at least somebody's writing about it, right? Now, the sub-headline says, guess how much money the American Bankers Association gave him? We'll get right into that momentarily. The whole thing about legislation trying to shut down crypto, it can't. It's not possible. Right? All they can do is make it illegal for you to transact.
And will that really stop us from using it? I mean, it's like drugs. They criminalize drugs, but did drug use go down? No, it went up.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's not going to stop anybody from using crypto.
Like if government, and in this specific case, the United States government, if they wanted to slow crypto down as much as possible, they would do nothing.
And here's the other thing. Even if you outlaw it in the United States, the world is more than the United States. There's 200 some countries.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, I'm going to outlaw it here, because what that's going to do is it's going to put you at an economic disadvantage because
Correct.
Other countries aren't outlawing it. Everybody would have to outlaw it in order for it to really have an impact. And that's a much bigger task to pull off than simply having one or two countries outlaw
I think it's striking that Elizabeth Warren, she had a hearing on Bitcoin, and one of the computers, she was like, how can we shut down Bitcoin? And the person said, well, Senator, the whole point of Bitcoin is that if even one node is still surviving with the copy of the blockchain, then the blockchain can be recreated by all the other nodes. And so you can't shut it down. You'd have to destroy every node with a copy of the blockchain.
Which would be impossible.
And Elizabeth Warren said, "Oh, that's just awful." And you could just see, like, it's like, yeah, this is awful. We can't regulate this or stop it or control it.
It occurs to me that she has 2 first names.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. There's a phrase that I say a bunch, and I don't really believe it, but the phrase is never trust a man with 2 first names.
Because you know what? TJ the Spy, Travis Jared.
And
I chose those names. People asked me, how'd I get the name TJ the Spy? And I said, well, I'm named after my 2 best friends, a Travis and a Jared. So, like, when I had to change my name the last time, I just said, hey, my 2 best friends, can I take your names? And they're like, dude, that's kind of weird, but sure, knock yourself out if you want to be Travis Jared Park.
I won't hold it against you, but it occurs to me that Elizabeth Warren is 2 first names. Now, somebody did ask me once about, well, if you don't trust a man with 2 first names, what about a woman with 2 first names? And I said, well, I just don't trust women.
Oh, wow.
I'm joking, of course. But
you must have a real hit with the ladies. Is that a pickup line you use often with your wife?
It never works.
I would think women would laugh at it, at least if they had any sense of humor.
And that's what happened in this case. So, but anyway, this article, millions of Americans have bought into forms of digital decentralized money known as cryptocurrency, valuing its privacy and independence from government meddling. Naturally, politicians in Washington want to rain on the parade and shut down the newfangled currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum that are beyond their control. That's right, beyond their control.
If it's beyond their control, how are they going to shut it down?
One of the biggest opponents of cryptocurrency in Washington is Congressman Brad Sherman. 2 first names, Brad Sherman. A California Democrat who has in the past called for cryptos to be banned. At a Wednesday hearing for the House Committee on Financial Services, Sherman harshly criticized cryptocurrency and renewed his calls for its prohibition. Cryptocurrency is something you can bet on, but if people want to have the animal spirits to take risks, I'd prefer them to invest in equity markets to support the building of American companies, or the California lottery to support the schools in my state.
You know, he's referring to Keynes, right? Keynes said interest rates are the before I misquote Keynes, but I know the animal spirits is one of his sayings.
I call it Keynes. Is it the same guy? Keynes.
Keynes and Keynes. The Keynesian or Keynesian
economics, as opposed to Austrian economics.
As opposed to Austrian, the school I'm from. But anyway, continue. I apologize.
That's okay. Did you make your point, though?
I think I did.
The animal spirits is a Keynesian
Keynesian phraseology. So they said if people want to have the animal spirits, and I thought, oh boy, this guy's trying to sound.
Well, he's calling for people to play the California lottery to support schools. You know, the schools that are supposed to be funded by taxpayer money.
Yeah, with the 50% house edge, California lottery, that's one of the worst investments ever.
603-283-6160. Can cryptocurrency be shut down by politicians? More Free Talk Live is on the way.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back. Yes, welcome back. Let's get back to the radio program. The radio program is now starting again now. I don't know how many different ways I can say that, but that was like 4, I guess. You guys are looking at me like, okay, Captain, let's...
Yes, let's. I was like going,
let's just actually get the show rolling instead of telling people.
Wait, what are we doing again?
That we're going to get the show rolling.
Free Talk Live, right?
Yes, Free Talk Live is the show that we are supposed to be doing right now.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for picking up my light.
Yeah.
The telephone number that you're supposed to be calling in on is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. If you'd like to join us in our conversation tonight in the studio, it is myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, and
Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
Now, we've been starting in on this article from FEE, that's the Foundation for Economic Education, talking about a Congress critter, a Congress demon, a Congress person who's attempting to shut down cryptocurrency.
Boo.
But it turns out he's being funded by big banks and financial institutions.
Dun, dun, dun.
Who would have guessed that?
You step out the competition.
So anyway, he was telling folks that they can bet on all sorts of things, or he'd prefer them to play the California lottery rather than use cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile. So if one person makes $1 million and 9 lose 100,000, Coinbase makes the money.
It doesn't work that way. No.
The millionaire goes on TV and says how wonderful it is, and 9 others do not retire
That
in dignity.
Is not true.
That's not true. I love politicians. They're slimy.
Liars.
They're bribable liars. They don't do anything productive.
No, they don't.
No,
So,
they
I mean, look, the reality is when you hold cryptocurrency over time, yes, it will go down, but it goes up more than it goes down. So you end up making out, just because it went. So here's an example. So a year ago it was at 20,000, and I'm not getting the time frame quite right exactly, but anyway, just for general, if it was 20,000 a year ago, and these numbers are somewhat true, and it went up to 60,000, but then it dropped to 30,000. That's still a $10,000 gain, right?
Yeah.
Sure so
is. I remember back, I think it was 2017, when we had that first big run up with Bitcoin, when Bitcoin hit to $20,000, and then it crashed, and people were like, "Oh, Bitcoin's finished. People who bought at 20,000 are never, they're gonna lose all their money." And then just 4 short years later, we were past 20,000 and headed to 50, 60,000.
It reminds me of a meme I saw recently on the social media. It's this really super buff, cryptocurrency guy, super worked out, muscle bound, and they're like, the person standing next to him was like, "Wow, you are really in great shape. What is your secret? How do you do it?" And he goes, "Every time somebody in the media says cryptocurrency is dead, I do 1 push-up."
Meh. That's funny.
Every time somebody says crypto is dead, you should be buying more crypto.
That is a fact. That is a buying signal if you want to use that terminology.
What's interesting is that I've noticed that people who we've helped buy or use crypto in the past have actually done better in a lot of cases than people who use crypto regularly. And part of the reason is because they buy it, don't know how to use it, or don't have the opportunity to spend it because they're like in Massachusetts or surrounding areas
or Seattle, Washington,
Vermont or something like that,
example.
right?
Yeah.
And they've come to Keene, they've learned how to use it, but they come back every once in a while, and then over the years, because they've only spent it, maybe a couple of times, they have all of this crypto that wasn't worth that much when they bought it.
Right.
But because a couple of years have gone by, whereas the people in Keene and the people in New Hampshire have the opportunity to
I know
spend
dozens
it. So they've
of
done
people.
well, but they haven't done as well as the people who have just, held because they didn't have as much of an opportunity to spend
I
it.
know dozens of people who have retired on Bitcoin with $5 million, $2 million, $500,000 to their name.
Yeah.
And, hey, what a wonderful thing to be able to retire at 20, 30, 40, 50 years old instead of having to wait till you're at death's doorstep at 60 and 70.
I remember there's this I want to say a little old lady, but she's not. It's something like a little old lady, and we've been, it's probably been like she's been around like 3-4 years at least. And I remember, she wanted to basically like invest her entire life savings in Bitcoin at one point. And it was at the height. It was like when it was $20,000. And at the time, that was the height. And it dropped immediately after that. And we were like, yeah, you should probably do it, but you probably shouldn't put in your entire $70,000 life savings. And it's like, but the thing is, that what's interesting about that is even if she had done that, she would be even wealthier now than if she didn't do that. And we said, don't do that, because, you want to be able to pay your rent at the end of the day. Right. And anyway, so she did, but we said you should go ahead and put in maybe 10%, something like that. And she did. And within the last couple of months, I've assisted her. She came and she asked for help, and I assisted her a little bit. And obviously I don't want to give out anybody's names, but she had $200,000, and just by investing that like 10% or whatever that she did, she ended up basically having a retirement, going from being a poverty, level retirement to she's actually going to be all right down the road because of just because of it.
Yep. So this congressman who's trying to shut down cryptocurrency also claimed that evading the know your customer rules is one thing cryptocurrencies have as an advantage to the U.S. dollar. Now, if you use the U.S. dollar in its cash form, there are no know your customer rules.
Right. That's why it's called cash and carry.
Right. This is why you never see police officers at a yard sale. Right? Oh, you didn't get a license for your yard sale. Oh, we better get our cut off your yard sale. Every sale you made today here, you got to pay some tax on that. Right? It's because you're using cash, which doesn't have these know your customer rules. Cryptocurrency is designed to mimic cash, just in the digital realm. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And yes, it does have that advantage, Mr. Congressman, because it's better designed. It's not a state currency.
Yeah, you can't inflate it into oblivion.
Cryptocurrency, he continues, cryptocurrencies have the political support of the patriotic anarchists who are rooting for tax evasion, Sherman concluded. I hope we shut it down.
Well, yeah, and by the way, if I'm ever on a jury, I will vote. If someone's accused of tax evasion, I will vote not guilty, but they'll never have me on a jury. But I'm a big jury nullification person.
Yeah.
I believe the tax laws are completely unconstitutional, and if you happen to get on a jury, just vote not guilty, even if the guy's guilty.
Yep.
Send a message to the government that tax evasion will not be prosecuted or will not get a conviction at trial.
Hey, it occurs to me that this guy's initials are BS. Brad Sherman. Now, he also says something here in that last sentence that I read. Support of the patriotic anarchists who are rooting for tax evasion. Have you met a patriotic anarchist?
No.
Ever?
No.
I mean, I've met some like people who are maybe they lean right or whatever, and I'm a patriot, and so they lean towards the philosophies of freedom, but they're not anarchists. They're like Republicans or something.
Yeah, they come off as contradictory terms.
Yeah, I'm like a libertarian communist.
603-283-6160. Jumbo Shrimp. These are oxymorons.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. At least 120 people are now known to have died and more than 1,300 are missing after parts of Germany and Belgium were inundated with floodwaters. A massive search and rescue operation is now taking place with the Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland also affected. Reporter Julia Saudelli is in the worst affected region of Western Germany.
There's a lot of destruction here. We've seen people who live here who have had to leave their houses because there's no electricity, there is no water, and most of the ground floors of the homes have been flooded.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the tragedy demonstrates again that urgent action is needed to combat climate change. The White House is again urging Facebook and other social media platforms to take tougher action to weed out misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. For the second successive day, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has accused Facebook of lacking sufficiently robust enforcement strategies.
The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet, which has been disproven time and time again. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health.
It's reported in Washington that the Biden administration has had a series of tense conversations with Facebook executives over the last few weeks. Britain has recorded an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases just ahead of Monday's lifting of remaining pandemic restrictions. Nearly 52,000 new infections were recorded on Thursday and another 49 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 scientists have signed a statement accusing the British government of irresponsibility and immorality in planning to lift restrictions on Monday. Dr. Deepti Gudasani is senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London.
I think a lot of us are gravely concerned about the UK strategy. We had an emergency summit today where this strategy was described by Dr. Hasseltine, a leading virologist in the US, as murderous by the advisor to the Italian government. as diabolical, and by many on the panel as unethical.
The United States has issued an advisory warning American businesses about the risks of operating in Hong Kong. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Jagruti Dave reports.
In the advisory, the State Department, the Treasury, the Commerce Department and the Department of Homeland Security cautioned US firms on the clear operational, financial, legal and reputational risks of doing business in Hong Kong. The risks highlighted include those associated with electronic surveillance without warrants and having to surrender data to authorities. Ahead of the advisory's release, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the United States should stop interfering in Hong Kong's affairs.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
One of our chatters who looks like they're listening on Twitch says Bitcoin was about 9,100 a year ago. So your estimation about it being like 10 grand or so a year ago was pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to join us. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Chris.
And TJ the Spy.
Let's just go to your calls and thoughts right away. We have somebody calling himself Nobody, not to be confused with the Nobody. Nobody, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello, man. Nice to talk to you guys. I want to say that I'm down with your cause, pretty much.
Freedom?
Of course. Liberty and justice for all. But anyhow, I was like really interested into the digital currency thing, and I was examining it, and I was like, man, I need to get some. And so I went on YouTube and I looked at all the videos, and they said Coinbase, that's where you get your cryptocurrency.
Yep. If you're a U.S. citizen, that's one of the big ones in the United States. That's the one that I use.
Yeah, that's not a very good choice, I don't think.
I don't use Coinbase anymore. I did for a period of time.
It depends what you're if you're buying to buy small amounts. If you're trying to maintain your privacy, it's not the thing to go because there will be a record.
No, it's not. I mean, I tried. I bought Bitcoin when it was like 18,000. I was like, wow, it's going up. And I was like, man, I've got to get some. I'm going to make 20 grand in the next year. And then it went down.
But if you held,
like, man, I got it.
Did you hold?
Hello?
Did you hold? Did you hold on to it?
No.
Oh, that was a mistake.
Oh, see, that's you gotta hold.
Yeah,
hodl.
Don't. Like, when it's going down, like, just hold on for your dear life, because if you do, in a couple of years, you'll be wealthy.
Well, like,
all right, but check this out.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the profit motive for getting into cryptocurrency should not be your primary motive.
No, definitely not.
Yeah,
right.
It's very risky. You could lose money.
Not. Definitely not.
Okay.
You probably won't if you hold, but
more privacy than anything.
Control. Privacy. Monero is more private, but generally control is the main thing that you get from it.
Okay, so go ahead.
Well,
Nobody.
I bought Ethereum, I bought Litecoin and Bitcoin.
Good for you. And Bitcoin, and you have some Bitcoin Cash probably. And I mean, that's what I recommend people do is they take and buy 10, 20 different cryptocurrencies, diversify your money, because you have no way of knowing which of these cryptocurrency projects are going to make it big and which ones are going to go kaflooey and just become in the dustbin of history.
I just really wanted one IOTA, but I guess Coinbase doesn't sell IOTA.
Yeah, they don't. They sell Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Ethereum, and a whole bunch of others. But a lot of these,
once you get the Bitcoin, though, you can send it.
You can convert it to others, on Bittrex or Kraken or Binance. Those are like three big exchanges. Binance. Is that how you say it?
Anyway, man, check this out. So I was like, man, my money's gone down. I just want to cash out and use my crypto to buy private VPN where nobody knows that I've got a VPN.
Okay.
And so I try to cash out of Coinbase, and they're like, we need your address, phone number, and social security number.
And a photo ID and all that crap. Yep.
They don't
I
do
was
that
like,
when you sign up.
And they wanted your bank account linked to it. So I was like, man, that's not private or anything. I was like, whoa. And then I seen that your friends got arrested.
Oh,
for,
yeah.
Having a machine,
A Bitcoin machine. Yep.
And I was like, holy smokes, this is outrageous. And I'm on this, it's some kind of browser. It's called the Brave browser.
Oh, yeah. The
You
Brave
can
is
get
part of the
free.
BAT token Ethereum system.
And I was thinking, man, I can get some of that and convert it to Bitcoin, but they want you to sign up with this wallet.
Yeah,
that you have
Uphold
to
and
give all your information on. And it's not really cool. I mean, I would like to do it privately, actually. I mean,
The way for
I
you,
guess
the
there's-
best way for you to do these transactions privately is to do it person to person. Right, peer to peer is the term you keep hearing surrounding cryptocurrency. You want to do it person to person. I recommend people just earn it. Right, offer a product or service. You know, if it's a part-time business,
And he's looking to sell, though. So for looking for sellers, I would that's what Ian was allegedly doing, was buying the Bitcoin on Coinbase and then selling it on localbitcoins.com. That's not exactly what he was doing, but that's what, the general gist of the idea of the scheme that the government's alleging is that he was buying it on one exchange and then selling it to private people who didn't want to give their money to the give their information to the exchanges. And that's what he's got to.
And I'm down with that.
Yeah, me too.
There's so many flaws in their argument, though.
Well, so back to the caller.
Yeah.
So in my experience, person-to-person exchanges or trades are the way to go if you value your privacy.
Well, that's true, but you still have to get it in the first place to be able to do person to person.
Sure. Well, somebody does. Sure. But you can also accept it, right? So if you accept it and then
Like if
you
you're
have
on
more than you want, then you can sell it to somebody else. And if you go to local.bitcoin.com, that's one place to do that. So you can buy or sell at local.bitcoin.com.
I've got I got a couple more topics if it's okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We don't have any other callers, so we'd love to hear from you, man.
Oh, great. I've been listening to y'all for about 3 months, and I guess you're a part of the Walk of Freedom movement.
I think you're thinking of Bitcoin Gandhi, maybe? The Walk of Freedom? Is that the...
No.
I don't know.
Is he
I've
thinking of
listened to this,
the Free State Project?
I listened to this, the Free State movement.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so what we are, we run several things. We're actually the Liberty Radio Network, so we have a 3-hour talk show every 7 days a week, and that's our thing that we do, and we have various guests that come on and talk about Liberty and the Liberty projects going on. But then there's the Free State Project, which is a separate thing, and then there's, of course, there's some other organizations that we work with, that they,
Some of us are participants of the Free State Project. So we signed the statement of intent, which is basically that we would move to New Hampshire.
Are you thinking of the Shire Society?
The Shire Society, thank you. I was thinking of there's some other things like Free Keene, and there's some other groups that are going around trying to promote liberty.
Yeah, there's a very large freedom migration movement that is trying to get people who believe in the
And they're
philosophies
all,
of freedom.
Moving to y'all's state. Is that
to
correct?
New Hampshire.
That's right.
There's
To
a
see
lot
if
of people.
Yeah, this
to
is
see
our
if we
adopted
can-
state for most of us.
Right, but the purpose of it is to see if we can make a difference, to see if we can actually achieve
We
freedom
have.
in our lifetime.
It kind of looks like you are. I mean, with all the things I've heard so far, it seems pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, but we need more.
We need more, and it's a long road to freedom because
Yep, it is.
every person that comes here is another person that could serve on a jury. It's another person that can serve in public office or do something to help fight the tyranny of the state. And we need...
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have effectively the reason it
That's
works is
really cool.
Effectively, the reason it works is because we have the loudest voice in the room. People who move are more active politically. They're more active in, trying to change the system relative to your people who didn't move, who were born here, or, they're more sedentary effectively. And so because you have more people running for office, you have more people getting elected, which results in a disproportionate influence in the political system, and you just don't have that if you're spread out. So as a political group of people, it makes a lot of sense to migrate to one region.
Okay, my next topic is I watched all your videos on the. I didn't know anything about the Crypto 6 until I started listening to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interested, so I watched all of the videos where people were arrested and the FBI and the people were at the...
hey, nobody, you want to stay on? You want to hold?
Yeah.
Okay, stand by.
Sure.
603-283-6160 is the number. We'll figure out what else this other person calling himself nobody is up to. This is Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
And we're back. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. As was alluded to earlier in the show, we are here 7 days a week from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to call, you have to call between those hours. Sometimes some of the stations that carry us, or if you're listening on a podcast or something like that, or somebody rebroadcasting us for whatever reason, it might not be during the actual live show. So this is a live program. So if you're hearing us outside of 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern and you want to call, you can. You just need to do it between 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern 7 days a week. So I won't give you the phone number because this is the final segment. We'll resume our conversation with this other person named Nobody very shortly. But first, I want to make sure that I say thank you to Carl. Carl with a K, K-A-R-L, is a platinum amplifier. What's an amplifier, you might ask? Well, AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. And we have a whole page dedicated to it over at amp.freetalklive.com. Essentially, Carl gives a pretty good chunk of money to help get this radio station or this radio program on more radio stations. We're currently on somewhere around 185, maybe 200 stations. Not all 7 days a week, that type of thing. But we could be on more. We could be on 250. We could be on 300 radio stations. It's all up to you. There are some perks that you get. We only ask for $5 as a minimum amount. You can give more. There's different levels. And Carl certainly is giving a very generous amount as a platinum amplifier. We thank you, Carl. Again, visit amp.freetalklive.com. All right. So now that I got that out of the way. You look like you had something to say.
Oh, I was just getting ready to go back to the phone calls.
All right, let's, Chris, okay, yeah.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's go. All right, Nobody, are you still there?
Yes, Nobody.
All right, I'm going to call you No One because...
From nowhere.
From nowhere. Because we have a co-host who's actually being held hostage by the feds right now, whose legal name is Nobody.
Yeah, why are you trying to impersonate Nobody?
I have a question. Didn't I hear him on the radio just like the other night? Did they let him out for like
he called in from the jail probably.
Yeah. Nobody called in from the jail.
Yeah, so since we have a dialable telephone number, he can call. He knows when we're on the air. So if he gets a chance to, he will call in and
cool.
make an appearance. Yeah, it is.
But anyhow, I've been listening to y'all for about 3 months, I guess, and you were talking about the Crypto 6, and I started watching all the videos that I could find, and it's pretty sad about what happened, and they're taking money from the church for the donations.
Yeah,
they stole a lot of money from the church.
Yeah,
and that's not cool.
Well,
no, it's not.
We intend that, this is one of those things that Ian is happy. I'd not say happy, but this is a fight that he's been preparing for. And I feel pretty confident that it's going to be a clean sweep at trial. He'll be found not guilty if they even go to trial. They could 6 months, a year from now, they could drop all the charges and say, okay, you're free to go.
There's some pretty positive developments that may be occurring right now that I can't really talk about, but it's like, it sounded like they really goofed on this one, and it was hard to believe 5 years of investigating and they managed to goof as bad as they did. And I'm thinking this is like a some sort of psyops type thing. But the more things develop, it looks like they really don't know what they're doing, and they just really screwed up.
Really?
So, yeah, I was like, they can't be this incompetent, but it's looking like they might actually be this incompetent.
Oh yeah. Well, I can tell you from the first FBI raid, we had to sue to get all our property back, and it turned out the warrant wasn't valid. And it's the FBI messes up a lot, not all the time, but they do mess up a lot more than they care to admit. and they never admit that they've made a mistake. They try to bury it and hide it under the rugs. So, like,
my question is actually about the libertarian anarchist thing about the non-aggression policy.
Yeah,
principle. Yes.
Yeah.
And
what's the question?
I guess if somebody is stealing your things, does that give you permission to give aggression back to them?
Shoot them.
Yes. So the non-aggression principle, in its most basic form, it just says that in order for there to be a crime, there needs to be an injured party or injured property. Yeah. So if I don't know, if I come onto your property and steal your car, for example, that is a violation of the non-aggression principle. I have aggressed against your property.
Yeah, it's basically, I think I want to add to that a little bit. So you should use the minimum amount of force as is necessary to accomplish your defense to the extent that you need to defend yourself. And outside of that, it's unacceptable to use violence.
I've noticed, with the recent riots in the big cities, I don't know how it is in the country, but personally, I think if you steal from a shop owner, that shop owner, instead of calling the cops, he should be allowed to beat you up and say, how dare you steal from my store? That's the problem, is that currently, if you're in Portland and you steal under $1,000,
you're not allowed to defend yourself.
You can't even call the cops, because they'll be like, well,
you're not allowed to defend yourself, and you can't call the cops because the cops won't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll just say it's a civil matter.
I have to say that all of your answers have been great and honest. But I have one more thing, and
go ahead.
I don't know how long ago it was, just maybe a week ago. Y'all, I think Bonnie and the Crypto Queen were beating up Bill Cosby because some women of age, like 30-year-old women, that it wasn't their first time, and they came to a married man's apartment and had some drinks, and I think they knew what they were doing, got taken advantage of, and they were like really beating him up, and I think that they had to know what was going to happen. I mean, if you go to Mike Tyson's hotel room at 3 a.m. and snort some cocaine, what do you think you're going to get?
I was going to do that tonight. Thanks for ruining my plans.
I have to say I'm probably more skeptical. I'm probably more along your line of thinking on that one. Probably. I don't know for sure what they were talking about exactly, but it sometimes I think people can go a little bit overboard in exaggeration, and I think sometimes that happens on every side of every position.
I haven't looked into the Bill Cosby thing simply because I don't care that much.
Yeah, me either.
Bill Cosby is somebody I remember listening to his albums. That's right, vinyl records. Growing up with him and like Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and George Carlin, they would put out albums, and I would listen to them and laugh. Cheech and Chong, all those guys. So that's where I know Bill Cosby from, outside of the Cosby Show, which is where he apparently made his real, Red Fox, right? But the Cosby Show is where he made his real fame. Now, what happened between him and other people? I don't know. I can say this: the justice system is not equipped to find out for certain, right?
No.
Now,
really?
Because it doesn't really
justice system.
Yeah, it doesn't really implement justice. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to just sort of give you the illusion that there's something that's maybe in place, but it never really delivers on the results. And so is there, does smoke mean that there's fire somewhere? Perhaps it does. But I'm not going to say that I know for certain what happened between, any of these guys and whoever's accusing them of whatever. That's between them. And they should all be free to seek out justice if they were wrong.
But you should need evidence, and there's a lack of evidence, I feel, is the problem here. It's mob rule. That's basically what the story is with that, is my perspective on that.
We got about a minute left. Nobody or no one.
Hey, guys, man, I just want to tell y'all peace. Love your show and love your answers, and I'm going to be tuning in.
Well, we appreciate you, guys.
Nobody.
We appreciate you, man.
Or no one, I guess. Thanks for the call. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really want to talk about Bill Cosby because he's
old. He'll be dead soon.
Yeah, he's already on his way
out. It's kind of
out.
a boring conversation to have anyway.
But certainly the justice system does not allow folks who want to seek justice to do so, right? Instead, you have to sit back and wait for the system to seek it for you, which it rarely ever does.
Yeah, and it takes forever. So if you get beaten up and the cops manage to catch the guy, it'll take a year, 2 years, and then he'll get a plea deal for a misdemeanor assault. And, hey, what about, real justice? Like, hey, that guy hit me. I want the cop to go beat him up for me.
We are out of time. Thanks, TJ the Spy, for sitting in with us tonight.
My pleasure, my friend.
Thanks to Chris also. We're here 7 nights a week. If you missed any of our show, visit the archives over at freetalklive.com. Thanks and peace.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind.